maybe not. He's on the clock, you know. All right, well, we will return to full session. We'll wait for Mr. Paul to return.
I think we can keep moving.
Keep moving, okay? That we shall. Well, with closed session being out of the way, and we are back into real time. Commissioner Hardy, recognition, no, we did that, I'm sorry. Sheriff Mast, request for one full-time correction officer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Thank you. I know I was here a couple weeks ago, and Mr. Walker really gave me encouragement to come to the board to talk about situations like this. So this is part of what brought this packet to us. I hope you had the opportunity to review it. When I was here a couple weeks ago, the board asked me how we're doing in the jail, and in the jail right now, the positions that I've been allocated, I've got them full. But that being said, one of my newer staff, Christy Wilkinson, she's been here. What was her start date? September. Yeah. So, but since September, she's worked 98 hours in overtime. Jeremy Schaefer in 2022, he's worked 276 hours of overtime. I can only those guys. I've got great people working for us, but they can only do that so long. I've got generally 2 people working a shift. I've got some real tough nuts back there in jail. Our front tank has got a really, really tough customer in it, and he's been there for a while, and he's going to stay there a while. You've seen, I forwarded on we had a staff analysis done by the Department of Corrections. I hope you had a chance to review that. It makes a lot of good sense about what their requirements are of our facility. In the budget, we had requested some supervision for some sergeant stripes and an additional person, and we appreciate the board's support. We know you guys are trying to help us fill in, but I come to you again, letting you know that the jail is still underemployed. It's underserved. We need to have. I'd love to ask for a couple more corrections officers, but I'm not gonna. I'm trying to be reasonable. I'm asking for one more correction officer, and I know money's tight and etc. But if I don't ask, I won't be told no. I certainly won't be told yes. So I hope you've had an opportunity to review the documents that we've provided. If you had any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm not demanding an answer by any means one way or another. I hope we have an opportunity to open up this conversation and to bring this forward and share some ideas and talk about it, and if we can find a resolution today or somewhere in the near future, that'd be fantastic. But the jail is understaffed. It's just a fact of life. Department of Corrections says we should have 14.99 employees in our corrections. So right now we've got 11. With that being said, when somebody is sick or on vacation, has a death in the family, etc., it costs us a lot of money to staff the jail and overtime. It's just the fact of doing business. Our minimum staffing is 2. That's pretty thin. You know what the population is back there. We've been hovering right around in the 50s. We're in the middle 40s right now.
Do they pay good rent?
So we charge them housing. Mm-hmm. So that's a valid question. We charge them a housing fee, and some of them do pay up on their housing fee. Some of them don't, and we turn that over to collections. So we try to recover the housing costs that we legally can. We do that. Yep.
Yes, sir, Mr. Morse.
So can you prioritize for me, just summarize your priorities with the sergeants that you asked about in the corrections? Was this number one, a new corrections officer, would that be number one?
So we'd ask for sergeants. Right. Failure to supervise is one of the main liability areas that we're constantly told about. and right now we have no supervision on our night shift in the jail. Now, we've got excellent people doing a good job, but we've got no supervision back there at all. They're deputies, correction deputies working back there. In turn, when they have a difficult decision, they end up calling the lieutenant. If he's not available, they call the Sergeant Dickman. So that is a huge responsibility back there. I want you guys to understand the liability of the situation of not having supervision on a shift. You know, so that liability doesn't just fall to me, it'll will fall to you guys as well. So I want you to be aware of that.
Mr. Christian?
Yes, sir, Mr. Walker?
Well, can you just finish
Oh.
with the priorities,
So,
if you don't mind?
Right. The priorities, they're both a high need. Geez, if I had to wish for one over the other, I would take the additional employee. I think it's that important.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
This is tough for everybody all the way around.
And I
just
fully
don't-
understand that.
What happened to cause all of this overtime, Sheriff?
So the staff has got seniority. They've all got vacation time coming.
The board needs to know what happened. I know what happened. You need to tell the board what happened. That you have had somebody on paid administrative leave getting full benefits for how long?
Oh, so we have had an individual on administrative leave. He's been there for a couple of months now.
Since September.
Yep.
Since September, because he was being investigated.
And
And-
it's been turned over to the prosecuting attorney's office. A charge has been issued. That gentleman came in and was printed this week. The issue with that, the reason why that it would be real easy for me to put him on unpaid suspension, to issue discipline. And to discipline him for 2 weeks with no pay. The minute I do that, then my discipline has been administered to him. When this investigation came out, the way an internal investigation at the Sheriff's Department proceeds, we advised that individual with his union representative of his garrity rights. In a Sheriff's Department, in a union, the employees have what's called garrity rights, and they're read to them, and they are impelled to tell us the truth. There's some contradicting statements from the garrity hearing versus the charges that he's been charged with. So if Martha's my employee and I give her garrity rights, she is impelled to tell me the truth, compelled. She understands that can't be used at any other level other than internally. Correct, Mr. Walker? It can't be used at the prosecuting attorney's level. It can't be used anywhere else but for an internal investigation. But they are compelled to tell the truth. The union knew that. The union compelled our employee to tell the truth. He gave us a statement that we were suspicious of. There's a report of a larceny, of larceny of corn and a larceny of a trail camera. The employee admitted under garrity to the larceny of corn. He would not admit to the larceny of a trail camera. The compounding factor is the prosecuting attorney's office has charged him with the larceny of the trail camera. If it's found that if he's found guilty, or if he confesses to the larceny of the trail camera, but under garrity, he denied that to us. Under garrity, if you lie and I can prove under garrity that you lied to us, that is a terminable offense. Just the act of lying. Well, regardless of what it is, if you lied to administration under garrity rights, you are subject to termination just for that. So there's two charges. There's two larceny charges, and I don't know how that's going to shake out.
And this is not the first time this has happened. You had a road officer who was off on paid administrative leave for several months, And when he was called back for disciplinary action, he resigned, and the county paid him all of his sick time and all of his vacation time and everything else after being off. This person is eligible for retirement, and if he retires, he's been off since September and we're still gonna pay for all of it. You knew how the board felt the last time that happened, Sheriff. You know, cause I know that the chair of the board had conversations about that. This larceny of corn stalks and a camera is costing Oceana County and this board who sets the budget tens of thousands of dollars. And we can't do business that way. I said we can't do business that way about the organizations that are outside, the other agencies we're giving money to every year. We can't keep doing it. We have already amended the sheriff's budget this year for $145,000 and an additional $132,000 in ARPA funds, $277,000 we've already amended the budget for this year. We can't put people off long. I was the chief of police. I had to fire people. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But I certainly didn't put people off on full paid wages for 4 and 6 months. They got dealt with.
And that's not what I want to do at all. I know that's what I have done, but I was on the phone with the prosecuting attorney's office yesterday trying to expedite this situation.
Take them for a violation of your policies and procedures, not the criminal thing. There's two different things. You can discipline people for taking something. You can't fire them for a misdemeanor anyway. Deal with them, get it over with, put them back to work, so we're not paying tens of thousands of dollars. And the only reason I feel that way is I've been there before. I hated it. I didn't sleep all night long after I had to get rid of people for violation of misdemeanors.
So,
but people,
this is the case. We have one individual off.
That's out of the 12 or the 11 employees, corrections officers.
Yep.
So, yeah.
We've got another young, one of our female employees who's she's having a medical situation. She's due for some surgery. She's going to be off for a couple months as well.
But with 11 people, typically, there'd be 3 people on each shift. If it wasn't for all these underlying circumstances.
No.
Okay.
That would.
12 would.
12 puts 3 on each shift.
And personally, I'm disheartened that a family matter is affecting the county and the way it runs its business. This is something should have been handled at a supper table.
That's unfortunate, but that's been going on for years in that particular situation. It is.
Mr. Christian?
Yes, sir.
Sheriff, have you guys looked at the OT that you've been paying previous to this as well? I mean, what dollar amount that might be?
Mm-hmm.
I know with vacations and things where you have to cover shifts, any idea what that amount might be?
Ryan probably has a better idea where we're at on our overtime budget with that. So, if I can refer to him for that one.
Yeah. Sorry to spring that on you.
No, that's fine. That's why I had him come along as well.
So looking back to 2019, the overtime in the jail specifically was $34,000. In 2020, $30,000. 2021, it was $52,000. And currently, to date, is $57,000. Well, I shouldn't say today, but as of when this was printed.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Christians?
Yes, sir.
My assumption would be that those overtime numbers are really to bring you to the ideal 3, but likely 2 people.
It's very likely too.
So I'd like to just, for the benefit of those that are with us and for the board, just an excerpt from the MDOC report. States under staffing, there should be 3 officers on duty at all times to provide proper security and control with regards to the inmates and to perform all the ancillary functions that are mandatory. After spending several hours in the facility, it became very clear that this facility cannot be operated safely and effectively with only 2 officers on duty. Then there's some staffing level figures in hours. The synopsis of it: this equals 12 officers to fully staff the facility. This number of 12 officers increases to 14.99 officers after you include the shift relief factor and calculate net annual hours worked. So to boil that down, the MDOC has identified the physical characteristics of our jail requires 3 bodies on the floor at all times to safely and effectively operate the jail. That includes employee safety, inmate safety, and security. So right now we have 11 corrections officer slots in the budget. We've already been told our jail requires a minimum of 12 to operate. Round up 1/100th of a person to 15 people to cover time off, sick time, shift changes, doctor's appointments, this and that. So we've been told by the experts who have authority and control over these matters in the state that our jail requires 12 officers minimum to operate our 4 individual shifts. We've currently funded 11. Add in the paid administrative leave is an important piece, but it's really it's an important piece, but it's a contributing factor, but it's a separate issue. Take in a officer that needs to have surgery, is going to have recovery time. That's where the 15 number comes in to be able to cover those issues. So we have added to the Sheriff's Department budget. We have increased a few corrections officers over the last 2 years, maybe 1. We're still not where we need to be and these aren't pie in the sky numbers. This is that the MDOC has given us. It's an any fool can plainly see situation, in my opinion.
Mr. Walker.
That was a 2017 survey done by DOC. They came in here and presented it to the board.
Mm-hmm.
And the word that they used continuously was ideal. Ideal. The board at that time increased the number of officers. We couldn't bring it all the way up.
Sure.
The bottom line is this too. This board needs to make the decision. Where do we go? Because if it keeps going, we are going to have to lay off people in other departments. We're going to have to cut functions in other departments. The tax money, the additional tax money with the budget. There's one overtime budget for the sheriff that we're going to approve today for $25,000 additional money that they're asking for. If we keep it up, the other departments are going to get cut. And our county administrator says the only way we can cover this in our budget now is for the excessive or over amount of money that we collected this year on property taxes that we did not correct. That was the discussion we had about how we were going to cover this, wasn't it, Tracy?
Yes.
It has to come from that money. There will be no contribution to the unfunded liability on the pensions. I understand all of this stuff, and I understand, but I'm saying that, ladies and gentlemen, it's got to stop. Someplace it's got to stop. We can't keep going like this. The other departments don't have this problem. We're at $4.5 million now. Do you think if we keep up, a new jail millage is ever going to have a chance to pass? Never. Never. And that's a shame, because I was one of the biggest supporters of that jail millage.
Mr. Christian?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hardy.
Sure, what is the average pay? I probably could look it up real quick for a starting corrections officer annualized.
22 to 25 dollars an hour.
25. So, back to the undersheriff's report that in 2021 we spent $52,000 in overtime, and so far we've spent 22. We've spent $57,000 in overtime. I'm assuming with an additional corrections officer that OT budget would go down.
I'm certainly assuming.
So we're already paying it now. Basically.
That's absolutely the theory, the idea, to
Okay.
cover it with a regular shift instead of covering it with overtime.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Christians?
Yes, sir, Mr. Fix.
So, in regard to your comment, Chairman Walker, I agree that we don't have a bottomless pit of money. One angle that I have to keep reminding myself when it comes to budgetary issues and especially the jail is we have a constitutional requirement to provide a secure and safe jail. We also face far greater litigation opportunities for officers and inmates if we fail to provide that safe environment, as opposed to other departments in the county. The liability is not nearly as high. Just guessing, just a regular guy's guess, that the liability factor is much higher in our corrections department or even road patrol than for supervisory issues for staffing than it is for our clerks, our deeds, our courts, all of those things, our building department. If we fail to provide adequate staffing, adequate safety, our litigation and liability is greatly increased in those two departments than they are anywhere else in the county. And so we expose by knowingly ignoring MDOC information, reasonably or not, we still are allowing ourselves that window of litigation, knowingly.
We have increased staff.
I agree.
And the other thing is, I'm gonna be hated after this today, more so than before. I'm gonna be hated. But there's something else that needs, I can't believe that when I read that paragraph on supervision and training. It's almost like an invitation to attorneys. If we're talking about road supervision and trainings, I'm not micromanaging the sheriff's department, but it's gonna sound like it. You have two senior command officers who both have take-home patrol cars who could go out on the road occasionally and supervise. They did under Bob Farber. He was on the road all the time when he was there. They did under his administration. There was options. There's options. They have
So-
vehicles we're paying for.
Right. So, as you said, under Bob Farber, I was on that administration, and you're right. And as it is right now, I go out to scenes a couple of times a month. Ryan is in Silver Lake supervising the nighttime activities all summer long, more hours than you obviously know. And both of my lieutenants, the hours they get paid is not consistent with the hours that they work. They're working more hours. Right now, one of my lieutenants is home with COVID, so he's not here. So
Oh,
you
sorry to
can't
hear
count on
that.
him. I see.
I guess I don't want any more enemies. Yes.
So I was just asking for a discussion. I'm not asking here to stand up here and get punched in the gut by you repeatedly, but I'm asking for a discussion to bring out the situation.
But the board needs to know what's going on.
And everything that I've done with the individual that's off on leave is for the betterment of the county. I get no enjoyment out of having somebody on administrative leave. I did that because I feel that was the best decision for the county overall. Mr. Walker can sit there and make a knee-jerk reaction, knowing what he knows, Monday morning quarterbacking that my decision's wrong. I guess I'm going to agree to disagree. What I've done, I felt was in the best course for the county overall. I lived through the decision, a Garrity hearing, a termination, and having a union fight back and get an individual's job back. I lived through all that, and I'm trying to let due process take its course in this situation. I don't want to have an arbitrator come here and tell me that I have to bring someone back because I've terminated them prematurely.
No, let's make it straight. I never said anything about termination. I said disciplinary action, and it would have been over with by now. I also said that on a misdemeanor, I realize and understand you cannot terminate. I never said a word about termination.
Mr. Christians.
Yes, sir. Mr. Morris?
And I guess I don't want to spend any more money either. I mean, we're already in the red by a ton of, by hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Understand, yep.
With that being said, this MDOT study is fine, but I've been back there. I know how it put me in a situation where I felt a little uncomfortable, knowing that I was the third person of two people in there in charge of 60-some people. And then, I was, and if I wasn't there, it would have been just two. And I was thinking, this was 8 years ago when I first started on the reserves, and I was kind of like, man, how do they do this? I mean, how do they do this? It just felt unsafe on this, and I want to be careful with that, but it just felt, I struggled with that. I think 3 at any given time is it's ideal, like the MDOT said, but I think it's almost, I don't know, I'm tired of spending more money too.
I am too, guys. I don't want to see my budget, but I don't want to see any of my people get hurt. I want to see the inmates that are here safe. I want to see them, if we don't have the staff to respond to incidents because we're short, whose fault's that? Well, to start with, it's my fault. I'm sharing that information with you guys so you understand the situation. So I'm not asking for a decision today. I'm asking for a conversation like we're having.
And I'm sure everybody probably already knows this, but if there is an incident going on in the jail, they have to call road patrol into the jail, and they got to take the guns out. I mean, it takes time. It all takes time. They got to take their guns out, put them in the safe, whatever it's called, safe box. And then so while that incident is happening, you got these other corrections officers having to let these guys in, these road patrol guys in. It's just there's the reality right there too.
It's a tough reality. It is.
Mr. Christians, may I?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hardy.
Well, I think one of the we talk about spending more money, but then again, we might talk about spending less money. I mean, if you're at $51,000 and $57,000 for the last 2 years in overtime. And you're talking roughly $35,000 for a new corrections officer.
Yeah.
I think you have a net gain on that for not enduring. I know you're going to have some overtime, but
right.
That really reduces. If I look at it financially, to me, that looks like it would come back to credit you a little bit. We're already spending the money, and at the same time, we're wearing out all the people that are working the overtime, which again leads to more issues later on. You ever went to work tired, stressed out, worked too long? I mean, you understand, but it almost looks like it's a net gain, not an additional expense on to the overtime burden. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Any other discussion take place?
How long do you think it'll be before we find a resolution with the one on the prosecutor's desk?
So I talked to the assistant prosecutor yesterday. So he's been charged. He's been arraigned. They're working for a pre-trial conference, and he expects him in for that next week.
Oh.
And there are still two larceny charges.
So if he accepts a plea, could be over quickly.
Very quickly.
Can I add?
Yes,
So
Mr.
regarding
Morris.
that, the only reason that it's a fireable offense is because of the Garrity thing.
Garrity issue.
If it wasn't for the Garrity thing, you'd hang on to him. I mean, I guess
We would
Legally.
discipline appropriately.
Yeah.
And then he'd be put back to work.
Right, okay.
Martha?
Okay.
Well, it looks to me like you have 504 hours per week worked with 3 employees. And you don't have that now. But if you take that 500, that, with 11 employees, that ends up with the 11 employees and the 3 shifts per day, each of those 11 employees is working 6 hours overtime per week, which isn't bad, which I'm sure they can handle. I mean, you know, it's 1 more hour a day. It's not gonna exhaust. I mean, they're exhausted already, probably mentally and physically from their job. But you know, in a normal job, an extra hour a day is not gonna hurt. With them, it's more. But
They work 12-hour days.
Pardon?
They work 12-hour
12-hour
days.
shift.
Right.
12-hour shifts. Yes.
I'm figuring out money-wise, not. So if it were 12 people, there would be a 42-hour a week for each employee, which works out to, over the year, 3,132 overtime hours if you had 12 people working. And in my opinion, 11 people working, it would be over 3,000 overtime hours. Doesn't count vacation or sick time or anything. The one thing that I am very concerned about is, like everybody else, 2 people on the overnight shift. I fear, like you said, you felt nervous being there with the 3rd person, and if I were one of those 2 people overnight, which I wouldn't be because I'd have too much fear, I think we need to have 3 people at all times. And any other, if it affects the entire county, whatever it does, these people need to be protected the best we can do. I totally get the money thing, but I think it should come. I think that's the bottom line for me, is 3 people per shift in a stressful, dangerous situation, which can be dangerous.
Mark said the only thing you have to factor in there is on 12-hour shifts, there is automatic overtime every pay period.
Yes, I understand that, yep.
Thank you. Anyone else this time? I just a quick comment. I appreciate the words from Mr. Hardy, looking at it from a financial standpoint that says if we're already spending the money in overtime, why not convert that over to be that additional corrections officer, let me put it that way.
I appreciate all your concern, thoughts, efforts, and I'll let you know we're trying to disseminate that situation as quickly as, I get no joy from the staff, etc. We need him to be at work. This isn't for, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be here if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Sheriff. All right, moving along with our meeting, is there any public comment at this time? Showing no public comment, I will adjourn the meeting now at 10:14 a.m. Do we need a short break, people, commissioners?
You know, the only thing, Mr. Christian, I think that people might not understand the closed session that we went into. That was on the settlement, on the money that was from tax foreclosure sales, what happened with the money. The attorney is representing 41 different counties.
43.
And there was a settlement on the thing, and they needed to talk to us about it. It was nothing, you know, operations, it was about the tax settlement on foreclosed property sales. So thank you, Mr. Christian.
Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Ms. Anderson, did you want to take a 5-minute?
If you could.
Yes.
Yeah.
5 minutes it shall be. Stretch.
We all walk out. I guess it's Reese's, right?
Yeah.
Both with your feet, right?
We're gonna have a bunch, aren't we?
Yeah, but some of it is.
I didn't get my
I'm only tall.
Did you get, you sign it?
I have not.
Thanksgiving have one.
No, I'm good. I just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you.
This is your last meeting.
Yeah. First try.
Your signature.
But thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Well,
I won't be able to stay till the end.
Nobody knew.
Oh,
So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh. They pop up here, there, you just never know. I'll be like a spring flower.
I have your phone number.
So, do ya? Oh my gosh. I love the cut, womanized wood, you know.
Oh, do you?
Now I might have them.
I put this right in that
Well,
number.
that's good.
We're looking to do some stuff like that.
That's my real passion, would be that.
Oh, yeah. Good, the slider's in, the
Oh, of
windows in.
course.
I think that's probably
All he's gonna do is get the
probably
spray foam on it,
what you.
siding on it, and then sit inside.
But I think
Morning, Pat. Good.
Yeah.
How are you? You've always done well. You got Rory poured mud?
They are.
Good. He
He
buys a lot of mud.
Not real how much work
That's what Rory told me. You can overbid stuff and still get it.
What's the deal? Who cares?
He's a builder. He wants it.
Yeah, I know, but.
I mean, you can't hire help like you need.
There you go.
Yeah. And he's on his phone.
But thank you.
Martha?
I'm sorry. Oh.
Something special like that.
Hi, how are you? No, Martha? No.
If I can ask, what time is, gonna talk about this?
Yep. You know.
Yes.
Pretty quick.
She didn't talk about where the money's gonna come from. No, I just want before they make a decision on it.
The first thing on the
So
next,
that you can bring that up.
this next session, and then again 11:30.
Paradise Builders. Thank you for sitting there. Do we have money?
So I get home the night before last
So-
late, right?
I feel bad that we didn't.
The kid calls me when I'm in Florida and he goes, "Hey, we got another order." I said, "Oh, cool."
Okay.
He said, "Well, we got it's a ton of pineapple and just shy of a ton of cherry for the salsa mix stuff." I said, "Oh, great, congratulations." I said, "So when's it due?" He said, "The 6th of January." I said, "Look, Alex, I'm going back to Florida on the 20th. "You're not." 20th. And I said, "You're coming down the 22nd. And he's not coming back till the 5th. I'm like, so when are you planning on running this? Oh, yeah. So we ran the pineapple yesterday. I've been home for like 14 hours.
And you
Run
worked-
pineapple.
Been home for
Ran-
14 and you worked 16 of them?
Man, we ran a ton yesterday, and then we're gonna run the cherry tomorrow. And I'm like, cause we're gonna do kind of a pre-Christmas in our house Saturday.
Because there are 7 of
And then my daughter's
today,
is flying home from
next month.
Japan with the kids. But they're up in Elk Rapids. And they're gonna be in Elk for 10 days.
I think, yeah, I think so. Right, right. Right, yeah. I think it is on the agenda.
I'm not worried about
I'm looking at the 11:30.
Yeah, it's the first one on the agenda at the 11:30.
Okay.
You would not expect it.
Not assigned to anybody, but
Right.
I'll take up the mantle.
But, you
You're doing a
know,
great job so
Yeah.
far.
when you build like that, that's what, you know.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna tell you, next to it, you know, so
This one?
putting in a redevelopment.
Yeah, he did.
I left.
I thought it was you.
No, I didn't, no donuts yet, no donuts yet.
Let it go.
I'm saving room for, some La Propadita tacos for lunch.
Maybe we should have,
I don't.
Tim will have his credit card.
Yeah, right, right.
Pick up the whole bill.
Are those gluten-free? Do you know if those are?
Tacos would be pretty much gluten-free.
Probably not the tortilla, I don't know.
The
I'm
hard
taking him on
shell.
lunch day for his last.
Oh, right, there you go.
Yeah, we're gonna pound a few. No. I don't
But he
think
has to
so.
be gluten-free.
Are donuts gluten-free?
So we usually get a condo.
No.
No.
You can buy them that they are in special bakeries,
That's where
Yeah.
but
used to live.
I see.
Oh, really?
that one is not.
No.
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay the price.
Right.
They're expecting a pretty
So
good storm.
It's worth it, it's worth it.
The tornadoes and stuff that hit, I forget Mississippi or Alabama, one of them.
Oh, let's see.
Catch some of it, so.
Anybody's crystal ball working for the Crystal Valley question? Mine broke. Overloaded it when I asked the question.
I thought we could slide into next year.
Right.
Because of there is that new,
No kidding.
grant.
Oh, I thought you just wanted to put it off so you didn't have to.
Well, that's also true. These
Ron
mics-
Christian,
these mics are
I
hot.
vote to move this vote to January 1st.
Yeah, that's quite an area.
You
Even
don't it?
that's built up. There's a bridge that goes across. That's a big.
I was Bob Walker, I was driving my car.
He literally-
Go the speed limit. Make sure your back traffic lights are working. The sheriff is gonna type out a memo.
How about when you? If it's not
When you
conscious,
send
I guess we
something-
can- yeah, I think that's what we need to.
Yep.
It's good to see all the different viewpoints.
Yeah, exactly, we should
He
be
said they
great.
put in like a Walmart, they put in something else.
I have all the data for those 2 grants.
Amazing.
No.
When we go, we don't go
Wait.
anywhere, we usually just walk the island or whatever.
We had a cooler shop that day.
Yeah, go to the different, restaurants and stuff right there.
That could be our different.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Okay.
That report says, the employees, the deputies are quick to jump on their phones to go to social media.
That's weird.
Is that
That's
true?
fun when I saw it.
Well,
And the other thing is it's a foundation.
Was that in that VOC report?
no, it was in,
Yeah.
what, I think
Gonna get it back.
Lieutenant,
I don't know what happened.
Tasty.
Schneider, I think Schneider wrote this.
Oh, Schneider, oh, he did.
In what, the last page of what he wrote, page 13 on our thing, the very top line there.
I vaguely remember 50,000.
If that is the case, that's a bunch of crap. Sorry.
Okay.
Careful, yeah, the mics are on.
Yeah.
I love it up there.
Bless you.
Thank you, I felt that coming in.
Ms. Anderson, are we ready to? Go. All right.
And I can pick the Xerox in the copy room.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Equalization Committee meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Morris?
Yes, here.
Mr. Christians?
Here.
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here.
Ms. Mayette?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here. I would ask for a approval of the meeting minutes from December 1st, 2022.
I had a couple, just adjustments. Under public comment, the first, this is Mr. Walker inquired if the coach and assistant coaches had been contacted. I mean, was the resolution tabled? I thought it was just no action, but it says resolution was tabled. It is, I know these are so minor, but just to have an accurate.
It was actually no action. I
Yeah,
believe.
that's what I thought.
No action, and if I may, Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
As an explanation, we have reached out and the coach cannot be here until next month.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we couldn't take action this month on that.
Okay.
The
And it-
administrator's office actually reached out to the coach.
Great.
And then my other thing on, see the second page of the minutes. It's in red on page 16 on ours. The second from the bottom paragraph, it says, the inclusion, the last sentence says, the inclusion of recycling services was very appealing to the Ferry Township clerk. And it wasn't just, I would say the board, Ferry Township board. And that's all I have for adjustments.
Okay.
And I will make the motion to approve them as with those adjustments.
And I will support that.
Okay, motion made and support. All in favor for the amended minutes? Aye.
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 Opposed? Same. Motion carried. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing no changes, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Christian, supported by Beggs. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Same. Opposed? Motion carried. Any public comment this time? Hearing none, we will move on. Crystal Valley Dam discussion, and I don't have a, is that?
Well, just before you get started with it, I know there's gonna be, discussion around, but wanted to let you know that, Mr. Warner did, apply for a grant for rehabilitation of the dam. We have been informed that we most likely will not get that grant because it is not a high hazard dam, but the grant has been submitted and we are waiting to hear back, on whether we will be getting that.
So the board understands, that application had to be submitted by December 5th. So I asked that we submit that was a grant that, I think some of the people from Crystal Valley pointed out were available, and then we also found out from other, I guess I don't know where the other source was that we got it, but when it said it's for rehabilitation of dams, I asked if we that we have the paperwork filled out to see if we're eligible for it. If you don't ask, you're not gonna get it.
Right. Mr. Do we have any idea how long that accept any sort of rejection?
I believe they won't have an answer for us until January.
It's not a long turnaround on that one, Mr. Hardy.
Okay.
There's a quick turnaround.
All right. I guess one of the I have the amount of that grant was.
I don't remember what it was. All I know is that he had submitted for it for.
I just wondered if that was.
Mr. McKean,
would
were you
cover
in discussion
75
with
or 80%
anybody on
of
that?
the rehabilitation or not?
I was aware of the fact that John Warner filed the application. I was understanding we were gonna have a resolve by December the 12th. Obviously, that's not the case. And I don't know what the money, dollar involved. I know it was a 6-page grant, and it is for the Eagle Dam unit. It was a money granted to that group that could be granted out for repair.
Mr. Hardy, where are we with this? I believe that we would need to make a decision by, the end of this month, do we not? What was our time limit with Eagle? Tracy?
Yeah, we need to make it today.
We need to make a decision today of where we're going with this.
No pressure.
Yeah.
I guess.
Do you think we could request an extension, say 30 days?
We did already.
Oh, okay.
We got an extension and all. I know that there have been several sources for money that have been looked at, and at one time, Senator Bumstead told us that he thought there were funds, but then we found that later that was not going to happen. Mr. Morris, you were probably more on the cutting edge of that than I was.
Yeah, that would have been I think the grant that you guys that we applied for.
Yeah, so, this one that they just applied for is something new that just came out.
Yeah, I think that's part of 565, Senate
Okay.
Bill, yeah.
So, I guess.
May I? I know this may not be a favorable decision, for all of you, but, may I suggest that you make a motion to, approve the rehabilitation of the dam if the grant funds come through. If they do not, then, move for removal.
May I suggest, Mr. Hardy, that the last part of that, instead of removal, I like the first part, that if the grant comes through, that we will work on retaining the dam. If we do not receive this grant or other source of funding, by the time the grant application comes back, that we start the process for removal of the dam and reestablishing. Just start the process. Not that we're going to do it. We'll just tell the DEQ that we will, unless somebody has a magic wand of the money, what we can do.
Yeah, and looking at the finances, and I remember that from previous calculations from the engineers and stuff, that, you know, I think it would be prohibitive for us to fund a replacement and or a.
And I think, I would hope that during that time, that if there are any foundations or any other, you know, charitable places or someplace that even half of the funds could be raised to save it. We could even consider, you know, if anybody can come up with a proposal for us on how to finance the saving of it. You know, I'd love to see us be able to save it. If somebody can, you know, and that's why I say that we start the process, you know, on it, because if for some reason, you know, we can work it out financially.
Will DEQ accept that if we have a motion to, and I guess it's kind of going back to to rehab the funding.
Well, good point. They can tell us they won't accept that.
That's true.
That.
But we will have responded before the end of the year then.
Yeah.
And I think that's what.
Then we'll start the process.
Yeah. I concur with that. I think we probably should write that into the motion.
And I should have worn my Grinch shoes today. I'm sorry for this. I don't like it. I don't like having to move that direction. I've been very open-minded about this whole thing. I feel as though I should have to apologize to the people in Crystal Valley because of it, but I don't know what the options are. I just don't know.
I do.
Yes.
I serve on the parks. I've been in contact with Gary and Lee. The supervisor is here. Ron's here. Pat's here. The people of Crystal Valley aren't real anxious to have the county come in and take that dam out. And we also have the revisionary process needs to be decided in circuit court if we were to drain the pond. We've talked about different remediations of that embankment and also that spillway and the repairs necessary at many different levels. I had a very, very good conversation with a gentleman I've known for a while, Jim Bernier, who at one time in his career was in charge of all the Consumers Powers impoundments and also the parks that are on those impoundments, mainly the Muskegon watershed. And Jim's in Cadillac. He has a private consultancy. He's been involved in many of these questions that involve dams and hydroelectric power. But these impoundments are also tax bases in many situations that are important to a county's budget. Naturally, ours doesn't have a tax base. It's a 100-year-old pond in Crystal Valley that has very unique historical characteristics that go back to the origin of Oceana County. And in a conversation with Mr. Bernier, he told me how he had been involved in saving the mill pond in Marion, Michigan, up by Cadillac, Osceola County. Very interesting concept that they've done up there, and the people of Marion did start a Save the Mill Pond. So, you know, the community involvement to raise those other dollars that you're speaking of, and our community foundation can also play a role in this. I believe that it is a low hazard dam, that what we do I don't think should be knee-jerk, and I don't think our decision should be contingent upon a grant application's approval or non-approval. And I fault our legislature for putting so darn much money into dam removal. They haven't talked about the retention of dams and to make these scenic it's a destination is what it is, and as part of our parks complex, it could be a very rewarding destination. And I remember in the 80s and the 90s, Crystal Valley was full of softball players all summer long. We had out of Valdu, we had 24 team tournaments. They ran every weekend all summer, and because of the popular sport of softball, Crystal Valley was huge. And when the tavern was open, Crystal Valley was a hot spot. Things happened, and the park was perhaps utilized more because at that point in time we did have more migrant labor, so to speak, rather than the contract labor in the H2A buses. But I think that it's important we look at saving this, and Mr. Bernier was he was very helpful. We don't have to go to a large expensive firm to get any engineering for this, basically an irrigation pond impoundment that on a scale to one of our large growers out in the valley, it's a small operation. And I spoke with Dan Halleck yesterday. We talked about sheet steel and the price of steel and how steel's gone up, and he's done a lot of the pounding of sheet on Lake Michigan, Pentwater, you know, other lake shore riverfronts, along with Hardman Construction. They've pounded more sheet around here than anybody else. We have the expertise. Mr. Bernier is giving my contact information to a retired dam engineer that doesn't work pro bono, but he can put together acceptable plans to Eagle. He knows all the people at Eagle. Jim Bernier knows everyone at the Department of Natural Resources, Fisheries. Jim knows everybody that's anybody at the Department of Natural Resources. So I think given a little bit of time, we put a few of these ideas back together. I think we can save that pond. It's not imminent that we have to dredge it right now or pump it. There are no heavy metals in it. Whatever we pump out of that thing can be taken and spread back out on the fields. We can find suitable growers out there that have the equipment and the time and the manpower to take care of that, I'm sure. And we can turn that pond back into a destination without ever having to go to circuit court and talk about who owns the land after the pond gets drained. It's a low hazard dam, so there's no threat to life downstream if it were to go out. It did survive the 11-inch rain that we had back in the 80s. 85 when the Hart Dam went out. That dam survived. So I don't buy all this talk that people talk about dam standards, you know, need to be risen for higher waterfall. We've already suffered the worst that we can, and I've been out and looked at that thing dozens of times in the last few years, and it's doing the same darn job it did when I was a boy. And I feel that we owe the citizens of Oceana County, our parks and recs, the Crystal Valley proper, more time to look at it. And I definitely would not be anyone that would vote for removal of that dam at this time. I don't think that we've tried hard enough. Maybe it should have been repaired like we did at Gales Pond years ago. Jesse Beckman went out there and they drove sheet down, and we got a pond at Gales Pond. You know, what would it be like if I remember when it was drained? What would it be like if we didn't put that dam back at Gales Pond? So, you know, removal of dams is not, especially little dams that are agriculture impoundment size. I think we have the taxpayers, the growers, the citizens, the people that enjoy the outdoors, and for the future of our park system, Crystal Valley could be another one of our gems, like Golden, Cedar Point. We've got a beautiful thing going on down at Marshville Dam. Gary's been very fortunate. There's $1 million in NOAA money coming our way, and Department of Fisheries is very involved in that. Our road commission is going to put a new drive-through. Marshville's looking beautiful. Black Lake is an excellent county park. We're looking at making improvements to that county park for outdoor tourism that would bring more people to the northeast corner of Oceana County. And I'm certain that with a little bit of work on the Crystal Valley Dam, we can make that another cornerstone. Crystal Valley is known as Engine Town. Crystal Valley is the first settlement that the government made on the reservation in Oceana County and Mason County. Our history begins pretty much out at Crystal Valley, at least as far as our Indian population and our early settlers. And I think we need to enhance those stories and keep that history alive. And that pond...
Craig, if I may interrupt, I'm not disagreeing. I'm on
then you'll vote to save the pond.
No, but I have a question.
Yeah.
If anybody knows the answer to this, if we don't respond to the DEQ, what do they do?
Tell us what to do.
Pardon me?
They'll tell us what to do.
Yeah, they've already told us.
And they've already told us what they want us to do. So, you know where that's going.
So if Paul, how fast of a track could that thoughts of yours be put on to get some answers to them, dragging our feet with the DEQ, knowing that we're going to get a compliance letter from them? And I would think that would be the next step from the DEQ, that they'd send us a compliance letter saying this is what you're going to do.
We are going to shore up some numbers with Hallex, and Mr. Heislip has talked to DeWitt Dewatering to shore up the number for DeWitt Dewatering as far as concrete stabilization wall in that. You know, we haven't talked to Wales, we haven't talked to Hartman, and we're not done talking to Dan Halleck. And I just feel that if I could get Mr. Bernier at our next Parks meeting next month, that he could give us, you know, some alternatives. I definitely would speak with the people of Marion to see what they did to save that impoundment. You know, they've saved impoundments all over the state. Dam repair is still part of the process.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest issue, and going back, and I couldn't find it in my computer, and I apologize, the engineering study that was done and the amount of money that was put forth to, number one, tear the dam out, or I guess I'd want to reverse order, rebuild the new dam, repair the current dam, or remove the dam. And I noticed when you were talking, you said there's no heavy metal in the sludge in there, but is that a fact, or is that just a...
That was our analysis.
Analysis by...
Our Spicer.
Spicer Engineering.
Spicer Engineering. So if they remove that, that could be transported to a field and...
Grinder boys will come
Well,
on.
that wasn't as emphatic as you presented it, though.
No,
They-
I'm with you, Kevin.
They said it, there does not appear to be, but
That's-
there's testing the DEQ will do, and they will tell us what needs to be done with that.
That's standard lingo.
Well,
That's
Yeah, but I guess the other thing is that in going back through all three of the options, it goes back to one thing, and that's funding. You know, certainly I don't think reconstructing the dam is even under consideration, or building a new impoundment, because that was, if my memory serves me right, over $1 million.
Yeah, Dan and we were talking to Dan, we were in $500,000 yesterday.
I
on the
understand, but
outside with
it's still $500,000 or more, and if you do the repairs to the dam, you're probably in that $250,000, maybe higher range.
Yeah.
So I guess it boils down to the budget, and the other thing is timing on that, what the DEQ would actually say. If we don't respond to the DEQ by the end of the year, they may come back and just go, this is what you're going to do.
Is it worth, in our motion, to have our motion state something to the effect that, pending the grant approval or other funding, other funding within the next 60 days? If we don't find other funding or other way to make it work within 60 days, that we will start the process for removal.
I think I'd stretch that time frame out a little farther. I think.
Well, I'm just throwing something out.
Right.
I agree with you. If we can stretch it out farther, let's stretch it out.
The farther we stretch it out, the more fire we play with. But
Yeah, I'm trying
Yeah,
to
that's what
find. I'm
Kinda what
trying
we
to
just
find something that works here. Is what I'm trying to
If
find.
you went 6 months and they countered, they countered. I mean, if they want to choke it up, they want to choke.
Because they're going to say we've had this length of time already for it.
Mr. McKean, Gary's very familiar with our community foundation also, and we haven't even taken a look at that avenue.
If I could.
Yes, please.
So, I'm probably the reason that this discussion is going on. When the letter came to Michelle Martin back, I believe in the spring of '22, it basically has been the responsibility of the Parks Commission to deal with this. And looking at our lack of funding through different sources to do this type of work, I started thinking about the fact that if we find the $250,000 to fix it, and we're just going to use some round numbers here. What do we do in 10 years when that person is sitting in that chair that I sit in, or Mr. Walker is for the board for the parks? What does that group do 10 years down the line? This really whole thing boils down to lack of maintenance. And it's the lack of funding to properly maintain the dam. Funding should have been found, or ideally, I guess, should have been found to dredge the pond and maintain the pond. The county does only own 40% of it, I understand that. And there's 60% that's privately owned. Participation by the other 60% is difficult, we found in the past. So this all boils down in my mind to maintenance. So fast forward, we find $300,000 from the 565 money. The other thing, I want to go back to that in a minute, but I want you to understand also that the people that we're applying to write the letter to is also the one that's going to be granting us potentially the money. So it's the same agency. We're asking for leniency, but at the same time we want leniency for the fact that they're the ones that are going to give us the money, we hope. Anyway, back to my other thought, and that was, long term, how are we going to maintain the dam? How are we going to maintain this property? And that's what bothers me the most about it. I won't be here in 10 more years sitting in that chair, I know that. But the next person that's there, I don't wanna dump it in his lap or her lap and go down, kick the can down the road, so to speak. So, to me, it's a maintenance issue. We have the same maintenance issue with the jail. If the jail had been maintained and we had the funds to maintain it properly, we wouldn't have to think about a new jail probably. Obviously, there's changes there, but it's this darn lack of funding that we can't seem to get our arms around, and it's frustrating. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and think about it, believe me. And trying to reach out to outside agencies, the community foundation, things of that nature, that's a great opportunity. There are places to find that money, I believe, but to me, it's maintenance going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Heisler?
Can I read something?
Yes, please.
Can I read something here? Just administrator, just motion for the word, and I'm reading it for the wording, not to make the motion.
Sure.
Motion 2022-25 to approve the rehabilitation of the Crystal Valley Dam contingent upon the funding of the Dam Risk Reduction Grant. If the grant is not funded or other funds are not obtained within, here's where we have to come up with a number.
Blank amount of time.
Number, the county ought to begin the process for removal of the dam and to apply for grants to do so. I think that kind of brings it right to where we are, you know. If we want to take a last chance at saving the dam, I think that's the only thing we can do. And then we just put that number in there, and we send that to the DEQ and see if we can buy some time.
And I agree with Commissioner Beggs that the farther that number is out, the more risk you run of getting a response from the DEQ not in favor. But would 120 days be adequate?
Double it and let them counter it.
We could try 6 months.
It's been there for 100 years.
Yep.
And it's not gonna go away. Hell, it'll stand for another 50 years with maintenance. You know,
I mean, if 6 months, it's fine with me. I'm more concerned with how DEQ is going to come back with that.
Well, and give them something to come back and tell us.
Yep.
Give us something.
And
I would rather they come back and administratively tell us, we do not like that motion, we do not like that timetable, than to come back and tell us that they're taking court action against us to remove it.
Sure.
You know, and Paul, you've taken the lead with the people from Crystal Valley and stuff, and you know, it's just gonna take a big push, you know, to see if we get it done, and I can live with the 6 months. For my vote, I can live with the 6 months.
can we give Mr. Heislip a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lee, could...
I am. I'm reflecting. It seems every time I get here, I hear a new little piece of knowledge, and apparently a couple of people know for sure that the DEQ has a plan for us. I have not seen that in writing, so let's pass that. Thank you for coming up with some potential future plan. I'm only going to ask you to do one thing for me. Take one moment, please turn and look at that flag, please. Thank you. We the people, not the DEQ. Let's create a plan and make it last. Will the plan go out in a year, 2 years, tomorrow, yet today? I don't know. Can we build it so it's good for 100 years? Probably. This is America. We're talking about putting people on Mars. Come on. Is there money out there? Billions of dollars. It's difficult to find. I had a nice presentation for you, and I'll save it, because I think we're already going down a good path, and thank you. You guys have been tremendous. It was only 6 months ago that I showed up, and you've gotten this far, and I congratulate you. You didn't pull the plug on it and tear the dam out, which is going to alienate the people that are in their graves that gave this 35 acres to the township, and then we gave it to the county. I think we should respect them and do what they intended to have done and create a recreational spot for the families of a farm community to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Hardy, I can support this.
Yeah, I think June, if they want a date, June 30th, 2023, that would be your 6 months from January 1st.
Can I
Yeah.
make one more
Yeah,
comment?
right.
Just as unfortunately, a little dose of reality, and I don't like it, but we keep talking to local contractors, and our local contractors are smart guys, and Dan Halleck solved the Long Bridge problem with just his ideas. What I don't think we're gonna get away with in this situation with a dam, even low hazard, is getting away from having an engineering study done and approval of whatever work we decide to do. And that's gonna be costly. So I don't like it. I think it's wrong. I think it's ridiculous for the government entity to come in and require a $200,000 engineer for a $300,000, $400,000 project. But I'd be really shocked if they let us not have a professional dam engineer involved in this project to give the thumbs up approval, and that's gonna cost a lot of dollars.
No, it won't. I already said it wouldn't.
Where's the paper?
We're gonna bring it to you.
Okay,
No
and then
problem.
where's the DEQ approval?
Well, you
Because,
still have to have a permit.
As much as I don't.
You have to get a
Correct.
permit, so there's gonna have to be engineering work done.
No, and this engineer, the name that I'm getting from Mr. Bernier, does this, he's
Yep.
retired. You know, we're not going top flight thing. We're doing it the same way that other projects have been done, and we're not going in the front door of the big deal, but we owe it to the Poe family and the other families that did create that water out in Crystal Valley the way it is, and all the generations that have grown up around that pond. And we're talking about our friends and family. And I'm not gonna let DEQ tell us we can't run an irrigation pond. It's just an irrigation pond, is all it
It's
is.
still the DEQ.
Yeah.
Well,
I
Just a
know,
warning,
I
the
know, I'm
DEQ
just
has
saying.
no sense of humor.
Tim,
So
Tim.
their fines will eclipse an engineer in a heartbeat.
Tim.
And their lawsuits will eclipse an engineer faster than you can say Oceana County.
And they will bankrupt us if they
Yes.
to get with that. Tim, just as a sidelight, the window watering, I am familiar with them when they built their house up on Silver Lake. The yellow house with the blue fins on top of it up on
Mhm.
Silver Lake.
Mhm.
Mr. Ruggles and his family worked on it too. They have their own engineers and they have people. They do things like this all over.
Yeah.
They are very, very, very. I think we can just say we've got a motion. I think.
Yep,
we can,
I think that motion,
yeah,
if we put it for,
and I think.
June 30th of 2023, I'm in favor of that.
Paul, would you be willing to read this motion or do,
Yep.
the motion when we get to the general meeting?
Mr. Hardy.
Yes.
So I'm torn, okay, because I feel for the people in Crystal Valley. I will say, in the plan, as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be some sort of, I can't support this as it is right now. And the reason is, we need to have a plan for maintenance, a financial plan. How is it gonna get paid for? Instead of you do another $250,000, $300,000 bill in 10, 15 years, that just pops up for us, there's gotta be money accumulating through the years for that plan, and I think that Crystal Valley has to be part of that. I think the township has to be part of that, or the people, or the private individuals, they set up a community foundation, whatever. Somehow, and then we can join in with them, but, I mean, I just don't see us doing it as a county ourselves, maintenance-wise, I cannot support it without some sort of plan.
Well,
for
I guess
maintenance.
with this, what we're trying to do here is establish whether it's gonna stay there and the funds can be found to rehabilitate it or repair it. And if not, then it gets removed. So that continuing maintenance becomes a moot point if the funding can't be found to repair the current dam.
Yeah, but if it is repaired, is what I'm saying.
If it is repaired, then we have to take a hard look at it at that point, I think.
Yeah.
What this does for me is it gives the people of Crystal Valley and their stakeholders a window of opportunity to answer those questions for us. This is what it's gonna cost to be repaired, and this is the long-range business plan on how we're gonna how we're gonna maintain it.
Well, I mean, right now, it just says, it's just repair it, you know, 180 days to repair it.
Let's see if it's find grant money or.
But I'm looking even
outside.
past that, I'm not looking at just as one time, I'm looking at 10, 15 years, the continuation. We need a continued plan. Because I mean, I may still be here in 10, 15 years, and I'll have to make this decision again. I'm young enough, you know, so, and I want there to be this money accumulating that we don't even have a decision to make. It's there.
At the time that resolution is presented, if we elect to go that way, add it onto it. Put, you know, add, you know, the reconstruction and maintenance. Add the word maintenance in there, into the resolution.
Okay.
Long-term maintenance. I'm looking for, you know, how we can make this work.
Right.
One battle at a time.
Yep. Yep. Thank you, everyone. We can move on, I guess. Tracy, consideration of the appointment of Adam Chandler to the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Yes, this was an application that was submitted by the Parks and Recreation Commission asking for the appointment of Mr. Chandler to the Parks and Rec.
Any comment, questions?
I'll say he's awesome.
Yeah.
He's great.
And Adam came to our last parks and accepted that position. Adam lives a gunshot from the Crystal Pond, the Crystal Park. I think he's young. He lives on the Crystal Creek. We could not have found a better person than Adam Chandler.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Administrator Biard, consideration for approval of the Conservation Resources Alliance American the Beautiful grant in the amount of $625,000 for the Stony Creek project.
We talked about this when Mr. McKean brought him to the last meeting, and Mr. McKean can give us a quick breakdown on both of them, but I wanted to tell you what happened. The first one, number 40, comes from a foundation, and there's pretty much not a lot of strings attached. The number 49, which is the Great Lakes Fishery Trust Fund, and that money is generated from the kill-off of the fish at the Consumers Power Station. Is where that money comes from. When I read that, they wanted me to electronically sign that application and send it right back. There are some stipulations in that application that we have to maintain the property and do maintenance on the property for 20 years. I would not sign that without board approval. You know, when it's a long-term thing like that, I don't think it's proper at all for the chair to make that decision. And that's why I asked that they be put on the agenda. And Mr. McKean can probably very shortly tell us the workings of both of them. Tracy, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
So as we've talked about past, we've had two funding agencies that have helped us accumulate this money to do this project at Stony Creek. And Wimser-Dick found $1.3 million through NOAA, but Conservation Resource Alliance out of Traverse City was another funding agency that we engaged with. And they came up with several different grants, and we've talked about these already. I won't go through them, but this particular grant was applied for in July of this year, and it's for $625,000, as you see, and that's for actually stream restoration. And this is the final piece that we needed to go forward with this. So the way they found this is actually through a foundation called the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. It was actually funded by Congress in 1984. And it's actually part of the Department of Interior, Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, and the Native Americans for Philanthropy. It also has private money in it as well. Jeff Bezos funded part of this money. So the state of Michigan basically applied for a grant through this foundation for roughly $5 million to be used throughout the state of Michigan. We were able to get through the DNR, through the application through fisheries, $625,000 to be used on the Stony Creek project. So there's a lot of things that go through this. CRA is the applier of this. CRA will be the holder of the funds. They will be the one that will designate where the funds go to the contractor and so on. So the county will not take any of this money. It won't come into our coffers, so to speak. The GLFT, the Grant Lakes Fishery Trust, is $115,000 for access. That was applied for in September. We got a quick turnaround. There basically was a $10,000 matching fee, which we will take out of Parks 408, which was approved by the Parks Board. And so that funding will basically allow us to build an ADA walkway and 2 fishing platforms at stream level once we get to that point. So both of those are really great funding applications. All told, the funding for this project now that we've received is $2,275,000 to fund this project. We're still waiting for $50,000 for tree planting in 2024, which we'll probably hear in January for 23. But that's where the funding comes from. That's how it comes to us. I was designated by Chairman Walker to sign the NOAA contract, which I am with Eagle. So I am the person that signs that. I could not sign this because it's a foundation. So they look at it differently. So the money is federal money for the most part. As I pointed out, there's really $15,000 in total out of 2.75 that actually is county money that's going into this project. So I would hope you'd support his signature, and that we could get this going and continue to keep going.
Thank you, Mr. McKean. And
Thank you.
I think the brief points on there were in your packet, you know, that we have to maintain it, we have the liabilities, we have to look at it, and those type of things. Nothing but.
And that's if I could, Bob, that's also the thing with any of the DNR fishery trusts or any of the trust funds that we get. So we have many of our parks that have a boardwalk at Gales Pond that basically we're responsible, the county's responsible for 40 years of maintenance and taking care of that. And the same thing with a couple of other properties that we own. That property can't be sold. It could be sold to another park or a township or a given, but it has to remain as a park and it has to be used for the public interest. It can't be sold to a private equity interest.
Very common boilerplate. I just feel more comfortable that all of the board members know before I sign something like that. And you had the opportunity to see what they were. And I have no problem with it at all.
Yes, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. McKean. You know, what Gary has done with our parks has just been absolutely phenomenal. And, you know, if you listen, $2.2 million at the Marshville Park, that will be a destination. That will definitely be another crown jewel in Oceana County Parks where people will go as a destination. But as we were just talking about the Crystal Valley Dam, we're having a hard time even talking about it in one part of our county, but down in the most populated, one of the richest townships in Oceana County, we're going to drop $2.2 million. I think we need to see some parity, some equity. I think we need to think of the northeastern corner a little harder and not always focus on the lake shore, but that's where the tax dollar comes from.
If you want to remove the dam where the money's available, we can do that.
Well, we're going to work on it.
It's apples. You're not comparing apples to apples there. It's a different project.
Mr. Erickson, you're beginning to talk like Miss Mayette and I have talked for the last 4 years being on the board together, isn't it? So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on 2022-40 and 2022-49? All right. If not, we'll move on to 2022-41, consideration to set the first Board of Commissioners meeting in January 2023. Ms. Biard.
If the board's plan is to keep the board meetings the same, then I request that you approve a meeting date of January 12th for our first meeting of the new year.
And that will be an organizational meeting also.
Yes, correct.
Just a second.
Already got it on my calendar.
What was it, January what? 12?
January 12th.
Yeah, okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. Moving on. 2022-42, consideration to reappoint Gina Mead and Tracy Blamer to the Oceana County Department of Veterans Affairs. Ms. Biard.
Yes, we received a request to reappoint Gina Mead and Tracy Blamer to the Veterans Affairs Committee, and I would ask that you do so.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, moving on. Consideration to approve budget amendments for various line items, 2022-43. Ms. Pierre?
I have submitted another budget amendment. I went through the budget and found more lines that we need to adjust, end of the year adjustments, so I'm just asking that you approve that, please.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, moving on. 2022-41, consideration to repair seepage to the basement. Ms. Pierre?
2022-44.
I'm sorry, 44.
Yep, and if we could, Brian can give you some information on both of those. Both of the next two items there, the rooftop unit for the health department and the seepage for the basement. Would you like to go over the bid that we put in the packet, explaining how they plan to fix the seepage for the basement, please?
Basically, they want to inject Vino grout all the way around the square.
Brian, may I ask you to come up with us a microphone, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Great Lakes is a company, that's what they specialize in, is they're waterproofing the basement. Is we got voids after, you know, all the years of this building sitting here. Sand and stuff is washed out under the foundations. They're going to inject this grout all the way around our whole square and fill all the voids to keep the water from coming up into the basement. Basically, right now, it's water's migrating under our foundation and coming up through any cracks or anything in our basement in the courthouse here.
Brian had two bids on this. We worked together on this. Brian took the lead, but he had two bids. One was to take up the carpeting and cut out on the inside of the walls, you know, all the way down the basement and put a drainage system in. This company, you can look at them online. It's a pretty slick system that they do. They auger diagonally holes and they inject a waterproof grout all the way down under high pressure against it and seal it all off on the outside. And the big issue that Brian kept reminding me of is they warranty it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be warranted, so if they do get seepage again, they'll come right back and re-inject everything until we have no seepage.
And that whole project was 24.5?
Yeah.
24.5?
Yeah.
And you have $35,000 set aside
Right.
of ARPA funds to cover those costs.
So I'm sorry, the 22,998, I think was the quote, and then there was an additional, is that a different company that was?
Which one? There was Ayers and Great Lakes.
Yeah, one was to cut the floor out and the other one was to inject from the outside.
Okay, so another additional $9,924, is that, or is that?
No, that's just the down
I'm
payment,
sorry.
I believe.
No,
No,
the wrong one.
that's Martech, right? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
that's
looking
Oh,
at?
you're looking
different.
at those copies.
That's the
Went down, went too far.
There's just one proposal for this,
For,
So they,
for the waterproofing?
in our packet, right? For the waterproof?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. And you can get online and they actually have, you know, videos of how they do that.
Go on to Great Lakes.
So this is done in the courtyard, or this?
This will be done in the courtyard. They're actually set up right inside the courtyard, mix their grout and put all their pumps and everything and inject it. Versus inside the courthouse where
Right,
we
where
gotta
you
shut
have to,
everything
where you
down
have to
and
shut everything down.
and go through all that.
What's the time span on that? Have they give you any?
As soon as we let them know they're out, like months.
Oh.
So, like,
Spring, probably.
Would be
Every
spring.
spring?
yeah.
Okay.
Probably limited with frozen ground, so.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that too, right? And
That-
he
that's
said as soon as
actually
we give them the down payment, they'll give us a schedule where they can put us on and it'll be inside of 6 months.
Actually, it's a lot less than I thought it was new.
And here's the other thing that we can look at the star, the shining star about this. We're not paying an architect or an engineer to come in and tell us how to do that.
Right.
Because it probably would have cost that much for this
Sure.
piece
Look at
alone
it, yeah.
to do it. But by Brian reaching out to these people, he found somebody that does it, warranties it, and it's a work therein.
Mr. Hardy, can I-
Yes.
So will this solve, I mean, there's a water leaking issue in the jail, right? In the basement, will that
That is
solve?
something totally different.
Okay.
If you wanna know what that issue is when the storm sewers get overwhelmed, water shoots out of the grates literally shoots, cause we're at the low end of town, I'm guessing.
Yep.
But that water comes out the grates like door 13 over there, so when the basement floods a lot of the times, it's actually coming through that door. There's a sewer drain, a storm drain grate outside that door, and when that storm sewer comes overwhelmed, it's a geyser. And that water will go up this high on that door.
I didn't realize that. I think that's something that we need to, we need to look at, next year as we move on. Yeah, I
And
can-
there is some seepage from the parking lot and that, but I've sealed the parking lot from the building, and it seems like that part has stopped, but the door part coming under the door 13,
Is that City of Hart?
that'd be City of Hart.
So City of Hart would have to kind of coordinate with you to
Yeah,
figure out.
yeah,
what
I've seen it when I was working night shift at the jail. I actually seen it in action. It also comes in door 10 over here, because there's a grate right outside
Yeah.
these doors, and it shoots right out that grate also.
Can we ask them to spend our TIFA money to fix that?
Well,
That'd be a good use one.
Can I say that out loud?
Yeah.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes, sir.
I was involved with Brian just on the fringe of him doing this, and I 110% support this expenditure.
I do, yeah, I agree. I concur, and I thank you for the hard work
It
in
would be
finding a
nice-
reasonable solution to get
Yeah,
it
well,
fixed.
Mr. Walker had some great ideas too, so he kinda helped me get in the right
Fantastic, good
direction,
work.
so.
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering how long the warranty, I couldn't read through fast enough.
I believe it was like a limited lifetime warranty on it.
Are you talking Phil Morris lifetime, or are you talking? Never mind, thank you.
Well, it's actually, I think it's a transferable lifetime warranty is what it says for Great Lakes, so even if we sold the building to somebody else, they could transfer the warranty. So it's supposed to be lifetime.
Think somebody wanna buy it, Phil? No. just
Yeah, I
kidding.
don't think so.
Mr. Hardy, I
Yes,
think we
sir.
can move right into the
Yeah.
HVAC
Health
system.
Department, 2022 and 45.
Brian just received another bid in today on that.
Yeah, at 9 o'clock this morning, I got the low bid from Adams for the health department. HVAC units at the health department are all 26 years old. I currently have one that's not even repairable. It's the insides are rusted out. You can't change the heat exchanger. You can't do anything with it. It's 26 years old, 26 seasons, it's done. The other 4 aren't far behind. We're going to put together a proposal for that also. But this one can't be prepared going into winter right now, so we need money quickly to repair that rooftop unit.
What was
So Adams came in with the best price today for the one unit, and Brian and I talked that we do have funds to put a new synthetic roof on that building at the health department, not the dental office, it's the health department, a flat roof. And Brian and I talked about the other 4 units, the merit, because they're all on curbs, of coordinating the other 4 units with the roofing people, because they probably gotta lift those units off to do the roofing
To
anyway.
waterproof the curbs to set the rooftop
So
units.
do the
Yeah.
one right now that we need to do, and wait till spring till we do the roofing to do the rest of them.
How much was that one?
$9,008.
Wow. Nice.
And Brian.
And I was working with that
Brian,
guy since beginning of November, and he just got me the quote this morning.
He did have, did you have 4 or 5 bids on that?
4 bids.
4 bids on it.
9008,
Yeah.
is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Thank you.
Somebody can't round down.
Any significant difference in the brand, name, or manufacturer?
Nope, ICP units, I got 3 of them for ICP units, which are carrier units, which would be the direct replacement for what is in there. I had one that was way high for Bryant units.
What is Adams proposing?
ICP units.
ICP. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, that's good that it's in the county, and I see the Montague quote was a little bit higher than that at $9,924.
Right, which who we use, but
Yeah.
And Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
The Montague price, they do have our maintenance contract, so if they would've just been a little bit different,
yeah.
you know, we might have considered that with our maintenance contract, but Adams is
And we have great
just
luck
about
with
across the
Marquette
street.
too, so, but Adams is, for that
And
much
that
money, we
includes-
gotta give them a shot, I think.
That includes a crane.
That includes the crane, the permits and everything.
Some of the bids didn't include the crane, you need a crane to put it up there.
Right.
so.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments? All right, moving on. Discussion pertaining to County Council, 2022-46. If you guys didn't, they went out in emails yesterday, at least the second
Yeah,
response.
I sent both
You
of
sent
them.
both.
Yeah.
If you had an opportunity to take a look at those, and Pierre, if you'd like to explain.
The first bid that came through was with Cole Stoker and Toskey out of Lansing, $200 an hour. They work strictly with county governments, local governments. The other one, there was, I forgot what his name was.
Warner Norcross.
Okay.
Warner
They had
Norcross and John.
there was a page in there with a rate grid, from 175 for a paralegal per hour, and that went on up to roughly 600, I think, an hour.
Wow.
So,
High as 710.
So, yeah.
so there you go. So, I just wanted you to take a look at those, and,
Would there be any objections for us to have a Zoom meeting in January with Stoker? Or do you want him here in person so we can talk to him if we're going to consider? And this is less, Stoker is less than we're paying for corporate counsel now.
Right. I guess my comment is too that they just do county work.
31 counties or
Yeah.
so the other thing that, that I'd like to point out is that, they've been doing this a very long time, so a lot of times they may have got a request for a legal opinion, and they've already written the legal opinion, so they're not gonna charge us for that time because they already have it done. It's just a matter of going in and changing, you know, what county it's with, or
Boilerplate.
that kind of thing.
So I would, I mean, it's great to meet with them, but I think what's more valuable to me is hearing from other counties. You know, us reaching out to them and hearing 4 or 5 county administrator opinions. You know, what do you think of that?
We know one county administrator that worked with him in the past.
Yeah, because this is who you worked with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that speaks volumes right there.
And I worked mainly with Dave Stoker, who is a partner, but within the last few years, they brought in Matt Nordfjord, and he is younger gentleman. He's done open meetings at presentations at MAC, and he did the labor negotiations for Clare County as well, and he is top notch.
Yeah.
Do you know how many counties they deal with right now? Approximately.
No, I don't. Right off the top of my head, I don't.
I read it, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know, I think Phil, to do a background, you know, to talk to a few of the counties, just pick a couple and talk to them.
Yeah.
And see what they say. You know, and that probably should be, would you or somebody else on the board want to reach out to a couple of those counties? Do you and Tim want to coordinate that, to make some calls to those counties and tell them we're doing that? And,
Sure.
and get back to it?
There's a few listed in the quote that I sent out.
Yeah, I was just gonna look
You
at
know,
that.
Well, and I, excuse me, but, you know, I really do feel we need to reconsider that other. Just because we got a one-size-fits-all, it doesn't mean that's what we should buy is off the rack. And legal things are much, much more complex than they ever had been. So if you do read that proposal from Warner, you'll get a little more in depth with that to see. And they also had Kent County and Ottawa County as references. So I do believe we maybe should get a 3rd or 4th proposal. Maybe we need to spend more time thinking about it.
And I think we can see what Phil and Tim find out. You know, if they find some big blue herrings in this before the meeting, they can let the administrator know that there's some issues that they found. I have a tough time paying 3 times as much for an attorney if they represent so many other counties. I have a tough time with that.
what have we been paying so far? And, you know, you're talking about hourly rates, well, you can hire,
300.
you can hire a guy for $10 an hour, it takes him 3 hours to do it. You can hire a guy for $30 an hour, and he does it in a half an hour. So, what have we been paying, Gary?
300.
300 an hour? And the reason that we're shopping is we're not happy with that.
Well,
I think
it's
you
not
have
the
to
price,
do with
it's
the
the service.
turnaround of information is more
Well,
not the price, but,
Gary-
Well,
you know.
Gary-
I'm not talking about the money.
Gary-
Let's
Gary-
forget about the money.
Gary has done a very, very good job, and Gary was nice to sit on negotiations. The sheriff and I, Tim, the sheriff, I sat on negotiations. He was nice. He was as much as a mediator on things on negotiations, and he made them work. Gary is not available on Fridays, period. He does not work Fridays. And Bob Sobey had the same problem as Tracy has. For some reason, often questions come up on Friday, whether they're putting packets together or whether there's other things going on. Gary is difficult to get on Fridays, and in the past, Tracy, I don't want to speak for you, but you said to me that even to get a call back has been difficult.
Well, I can tell you, in the time that I've been here since June, and I spoke with him once. He was here for court, and I spoke with him in the hallway. I've sent him messages, left phone messages, and I have not heard back. So one other thing I wanted to point out about Stoker's office is that they have several attorneys. They have one that specifically deals with personnel issues, and Bonnie Toski, and she's dealt with our undersheriff at the Clear County Jail several times over personnel issues, and provided background on that. And you have other ones in there that are specific to contracts or agreements or different things, and I can tell you there's never been a time that I have ever not been able to get a hold of somebody. I have a couple of the attorney's cell phone numbers. I've been able to text them or call them. I have the secretary for Matt Nordfield and Dave Stoker. I can email her, and she's quick to get a response. So just my background with them, to give you a little bit.
Yes.
Mr. Erickson, the Warner Norcross art, do you use them?
Extensively.
Okay.
I've used, Warner Norcross has been in Oceana County in different facets of our hospital, legal opinions. Warner, I've used downtown Kent County. My wife and I extensively. Also with Warner Norcross, you would get, you see the environmental issues, you'd get John Bile, a former Shelby boy. He serves on the top floor of that firm also. He's very, very knowledgeable in all the DEQ things, anything that has to do with that. We've got John Bile. We also have David Skidmore. He works heavily in probate courts in Kent County and other counties, but they are also Benona Township summer residents. Gayton, the gentleman that penned that proposal, I've used extensively over the last 5 years in the midst of the problems we've had out in Colfax in regards to the Walkerville Area Fire Department. Gary Gayton helped me through those issues. Troy Cummins also works with Gayton. He has extensive knowledge of downtown Lansing. He works with both the Senate and House of Representatives. Troy is the man in Lansing that you would go to for things of that nature. Gayton also was instrumental in penning the marijuana laws in Michigan, so they have extensive knowledge of that new agricultural industry, of which we have that going on in Oceana County also. You know, you get what you pay for, and you know, you can walk into a store and you can look at a pair of slacks for $22 and you can walk up to the $60 slack, but you know, everybody has a different size, a different need, and I think that it's well worth a call to Gayton, Tim, if you and Phil are making those calls, and it's well worth a call to Ottawa County and Kent County.
I was going to say that. I'll call both administrators.
I mean, those are two. One of the administrators from Kent County
You won't
came
have
up.
to.
Oh.
you won't have to call both.
Oh.
Because Al Vanderberg
Oh, right.
was
Yep, that's-
at Ottawa when they hired them, now
Yep.
he's gone to Kent County and they have him there.
And that's what I was going to say. Al came up on our SWAT proposals that we
Yeah.
did down in New Era. That gentleman has extensive knowledge of Warner Norcross also. So we're dealing with two very progressive counties in Michigan that already have them on retainer.
Two follow-up questions. Are you related to any of them?
I would have to find a new firm, Tim. I know that already, and I've already discussed it with them.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
no.
does anybody else in the area use them?
Meaning?
Any other corporations, entities where we may have?
They will do that search, and whenever you retain a good attorney, they definitely will go down and they'll do their due diligence before you enter into that contract. So, you know, if there are specific questions that you've got, I know there's a questioner here too you'd like to have answered. You ask them, you know.
I think those type of questions, if we get into that, Paul, respectfully, should be asked by the administrator, because you have had, you know, a relationship with them, and I think, you know, if they represent anybody else in Oceana County, Warner, Norcross and Judd, that probably Tracy should be asking those questions, you know, who their other clients are out here.
They would recuse themselves from
Yeah,
such
it doesn't
things.
disqualify them from
Yeah.
overall service, but there may be some conflicts of interest.
But, you know, the fact that we have, you know, John Bile, some names that are familiar with our county right off the bat, working there and taking notice, you know, we've got family and friends that work there.
Well, they're a fantastic law firm, I know that.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
I have to stand up for a second, excuse me.
Oh, all right, go right.
Just for a second.
I'm just gonna, just kinda go through the standard hourly rates, and the senior partners are $540 to $710, senior counsel is $355 to $640, junior partners $420 to $540, associate is $295 to $425, paralegals $175 to $355, which is a tremendous difference. And don't get me wrong, I've actually retained Warner Norcross and Judd previously when I had my business a long time ago, no longer involved with it. But to pay a paralegal $175 to $355, it just
I know where you're coming from.
well, and the other firm that deals with counties all the time and it's $200 an hour rate, there's a big parity there between the two. But anyway, just one thing.
No,
But once these guys take a listen, I think that'd be great. So.
Well, Craig, bottom line, when I had to go downtown Grand Rapids, I didn't want to go down there unknowing. And, you know, and also, my relationship with those people go back to the Heart Hospital. And we
Sure.
had John Logie was, represented us here in Hart in Oceana County 40, 50 years ago, and they built a tremendous firm.
Yep. I'm gonna continue on, I guess, if we're set with that, you guys are good with it? Okay. Administrator's review of selected claims for payment and administrator's report.
The claims have been submitted.
Yep.
Are there any questions on those? Okay, if not, I will move on to the administrator's report. I did not submit anything in the packet. I had just been working on the budgets and trying to get the amendments finished up, but I do have a few things for you. I had was on a Zoom call with Matt, and they were talking about lame duck and some of the things that had transpired before the end of the year. And one great thing that they mentioned was that the mental health bills came up for a surprise vote. They were not expecting that to happen, and those were voted down. So great news, that won't be privatized, so good thing. The veterans property tax bills have been put on hold, so we'll see where that goes after the beginning of the year. Solid waste law, they voted on a solid waste law, which is going to require materials for a management plan, materials management plan, for all counties. And one great thing is we're already doing it. So we got a grant. We're working on that with Wimserdeck and getting that taken care of. So Oceana is ahead of the game, so good thing. I had a meeting yesterday with IBEX. They handle our liability plan with MMRMA. Craig took me out to lunch, but he also went through all of our documentation and informed us that our asset distribution has doubled to $52,000, so we'll be getting more back from them. And he said our plan actually went down, our rate went down slightly. So good news, and that was great to hear. And then the last thing, Brownfield redevelopment met, and they stopped by my office to drop off the professional services agreement. If you recall, the board approved the RFP for Envirologic to complete the Brownfield redevelopment, and we were informed yesterday that Fishbeck, who was one of the proposals that they got, has bought out Envirologic. So the services agreement will actually be with Fishbeck. We'll be bringing that before the board after the beginning of the year. And they also wanted us to know that the people that will be working on Oceana's Brownfield are the same people from Envirologic. So they came from there, they're staying, and they'll be working on that plan for us. So.
Fishbeck, Huber and Carr is the engineering firm who has been doing Talamine drillings down in the Rothbury area in the southern part of the county. So they're here. Yeah, they're all here already. Did you bring up the transfer station?
No, I was going to ask you if you wanted me to bring that part up.
Yeah, we've got some things going on at the transfer station, and the grant.
Yep. So Lola, who works for American Classic, she does the recycling piece, is working with us on a grant which will cover the scale and doing some other work at the transfer station to get that so it's working better. There is no match to the grant, and she'll be working with Betty out of the treasurer's office today because it goes through sam.gov, which is run through the treasurer's office. So she'll be working with her to get that grant submitted for us, and then once we have that, then if we receive that grant, we'll bring it back to the board for approval. But yeah, she's really been putting this all together and trying to get recycling and all sorts of stuff into this grant so that we can get this all covered. Did you have anything else on that?
Just that we're probably going to have a rate increase proposal after the first of the year.
Yeah, they provided us with a dumpster rate increase already for after the beginning of the year, but we'll bring that after.
And remember, we talked about the price of mattresses going from $5 to $20, and all of it. It's all cost of doing business.
And they've also provided us a price list, a suggested price list that we take into consideration after the first of the year and upping the prices, but we'll take care of that after the first of the year.
On that suggestion list, was there I think, I'm trying to remember, Red, there's a $5 per trip in addition to whatever you're dumping?
I think the price list, when I read it, the one that I had a concern about was the single garbage bags and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that needed more discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
So something we can talk about.
Any questions?
The good thing there is a very, very open communication between the administrator's office and American Classic.
Good.
Very open communications.
Very good.
Anyone else? All right, moving on. Any public comment at this time?
Yes. My name is Matthew. I've been here before, and I'm here with Oceana County Medical Care Facility. Or is this like?
This should probably be at the next meeting.
Right, you probably should be
the
at
next meeting.
Yeah. at the regular board meeting. Yep.
We're winding up the finance work session, and we're going to the regular board meeting after a short break here. So thank you.
You're on time, we're running late.
I can't stay for the next meeting, but I wanted to lift up Ron Christians and Martha for their service for many years.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed their camaraderie, and I've enjoyed their insight into many different things, and I wish them well. And I know I'll miss both of you on the board, but I'll be stuck with the rest of them.
Thank you.
And happy holidays to everyone.
And
you, Gary.
And we're glad he's gonna stick with us.
All right, I will adjourn the meeting of the Finance and Equalization Committee. We'll take about a 5-10 minute break.
And I'll win.
Because we sat long enough in that chair.
Mark, right? Matt.
Yeah. But I don't wanna start at 80.
No, that's true. That is true.
I should have brought 2 bottles of pop though.
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably. Probably.
So that's probably what it's for my.
Is there any more coffee over there?
It's below the line, the metal, I can't tell.
So, you guys took care of me again.
Good?
Yay. I love it out there, they're great. Go ahead,
Good.
no, I'll make some more.
No, I was checking for you.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
No?
No.
Okay.
Little thick? Little thick?
It's gonna be rich.
All right.
Espresso.
I can top you off, though.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, you need some.
No, I don't like trucker's coffee. So, yeah, he gives me
What's
your
trucker-
phone.
what is that?
Trucker's coffee?
Yeah, what's
Oh,
trucker-
it's on the
Yeah.
phone, stand there,
Yeah.
yeah. I get out there and it's 2:25, I'm like, holy crap, I love that.
We try and be realistic, and then we try and knock it down if at all possible, so.
Yeah. They were great.
Good.
That's just as
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, I was gonna give
I used to get that on night
Oh, okay,
shift.
well, we got that
This talks.
taken care of, so now hopefully my check engine light
Right.
doesn't come on anymore.
Hopefully the next thing doesn't crop
Well,
up.
then, my youngest son, he's got I had a Buick LaCrosse, it's a 2013, and he's really kept it up. I mean,
Oh.
the oil changes, and he's had the hood of the car repainted, and down below the doors, and it's black with the chrome, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's got over 200,000 miles, but it's a good car.
Right, yeah, they'll go for quite a while.
Yeah,
They
so
wouldn't pay
he's
10
on his way, he's coming back.
That's my
from
they
work.
can give us a 500.
And he called me and he goes,
Dad,
why would my check engine light come on? He says, the guys weren't messing with you on your, gas tank, or the guys at work that he works with the trading post at Barwell, it's a sporting goods place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I will
And they
say,
sell
I would
guns
kind
and
of
all
miss
that
Yep.
stuff, but they all mess with each other. They'll like spill each other's cars off their stuff, and
No,
I'm
no.
like, lock your car.
Exactly, yes, yes.
So, but that wasn't what it was, so
Oh, no.
hopefully you got it taken care of.
Right.
Well, I mean, I had to, I was sitting on the table, they, you know, I feel the number.
Yeah.
Your apartment's still working for you?
You can try. I just turned it off.
Better than sleeping in your office?
Yeah, well, I got, it's the very end, there's only one next to me.
Mm.
And, they backed their car up right against the building wall. So I had my bedroom, and then I have my living room, that I made into the other bedroom. Well, they leave their car running, and it like hums, and it's like rattles the walls, and I'm, so, in the mornings, they start it up at 10 minutes to 6. Before my alarm goes off.
Right.
So, yeah.
How about you park it next to your apartment? Move it on down.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's a little frustrating.
Yeah, but it's really funny, like last night, they didn't get back till after 9 o'clock, and they leave by 10 to 6 every morning. I'm like,
Well, long
are you
day.
even leaving, or are you gonna live there, or what?
Rick, don't here.
So-
So you guys watch them.
No, thank you. I'm waiting on you to make first coffee.
Okay, okay, all right.
I just woke
Yeah,
up.
none of that took-
After working
Is
at
there
12
somebody
hours,
working on it?
I'm waiting on the first coffee.
No, not yet.
Oh, I can do that.
That would be perfect, thank you. I gotta run to my office and grab some creamers. I got peppermint mocha, sugar-free peppermint mocha.
Yeah, you
That
did.
would be good.
So I'm not a coffee drinker. Do I just, do I need to replace this, or do you use it?
No, no,
No, you don't use
Give
it
an
twice.
education there, Sheriff Schiller.
Yeah. I'll help us along.
I love it. Not a coffee drinker.
Phil's like me, I'm like, coffee? I don't know how to make it, that's what I'm talking about.
Put it through twice, what?
I have to ask my guys every time, how many scoops?
Fill it to the top.
Right?
So what did you tell Mom when you told her that?
That's it, Rick.
Better kind of guy?
Is it close to your house?
Well, I forgot.
Is it not the full amount of money in the position we have?
It's too bad.
How much they are? So are you leaving?
We can still come to sell you.
Dump this in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Enough water?
She's gonna come to public comment.
So what you gotta do?
I need to go apply there too. But I was, wait, they're hiring their CNAs, for their CNAs, but I would be a supervisor to, because of my years of experience, training, but, their CNAs there are being hired and they're starting at 25. You know, their base, if you have the wage scale, is 21. They're making more. Like, that's still more than what fresh out of school, you're just.
I can't.
Oh, wow. Anna, the girl who I interviewed, she told me that she goes, so do you, she was like, you made it so good, I said, I don't know, I'm still deciding.
So then what do you do here?
I'm in the business side.
Turn lower.
What is the business side? $28 an hour. And that's what my husband said, so I'm just waiting to see. You make the McDonald's one, you make the McDonald's one, I don't know what you decide now, I wouldn't decide, so what you got, tell me, I'm gonna be.
Maurice to hear.
I would, I ain't gonna lie to you. $28 an hour? No, no, even, you know, in Lexington, they get about 24, 25, you know, yeah. So.
Another donut? No, we won't.
No, this is number one.
Tim's
Taco
Taco Friday.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's Tuesday.
It can be taco day every day. It's okay.
Are you thinking of the one on the corner?
Yeah, the one in the Mexican restaurant there, La Probadita, across the road from La Fiesta. So, next to the gym.
Next to the open courtyard?
Yep.
They make and the guy that plays the organ.
Yes, yep.
So, across the street.
No, not across the street. Same side of the street. The one there, that's authentic Mexican, and La Fiesta is Tex-Mex. But still good food, just not,
Yeah.
it's Tex-Mex.
Not the one next to Christie's.
No, the one next to Christie's is good. Yeah, La Fiesta.
That one going to?
Nope, across the street.
It's like the real.
You're right, right.
Yeah.
Alicia was here.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Matt was here last
Yeah.
time.
Oh, some of you are reading.
Oh.
We bring them food.
Yeah, good.
Oh, Richard couldn't either.
Glad you guys are here.
That's how they run it.
We are
Thank you for having
unanimous,
us.
they did first.
Thank you for having us.
And this was the best one yet. The other ones were just. I mean, they were one of me.
I make no promise.
And they were.
It looks so
Yes. I believe you know.
They're just, they have no idea what, they just an unhappy
Yeah.
I thought you liked it, I liked it. Everybody was there, we don't only have. Oh.
Yes.
But it had only been
Yes.
one day.
Oh, man. Is it like a quarter of that?
Yeah.
Well, George coffee?
Half that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, we had them at the last meeting. You
Oh,
may
that's
need
why I
to-
didn't get it.
Yeah, you may need to, get that.
It's very,
Christmas
Christmas Eve.
Yeah, right.
You don't like Mahosky,
Yeah.
no, I shouldn't say Monroe, it's Josie
This
Mahosky.
time of the year. Okay.
That sign up, the sign up sheet for committees. No, she didn't. I got it. I just got it.
I'm gonna give the ones that I have.
Yes. Your favorite is, three.
So how do you,
Yeah,
how do
you
you?
see.
I don't sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't sleep. Mine would be French vanilla. Cappuccinos, things like Wesco, you know, things that goes out 21 years. That's pretty decent. I can handle
Time for you to
that.
get promoted. No?
Well,
You need it for the caffeine, or you need it to happen.
Well, I'll tell you, I used to big coffee cup.
How often does the vet?
I don't.
They meet once a month.
Yeah, but I don't know, it's twice a month.
Oh, okay. You know,
Which is probably on the.
Yeah.
Those are-
Right.
As you did.
Well, that's way.
That are Eric is quite
Yeah, he runs a pretty tight ship. Yeah, I appreciate his style.
You don't have to, you know, that we have.
guys do a great
For
job.
sure, we can do
Yeah,
that.
I don't think
You always
I
know
thought
how
you
to
did.
make that way.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking I could use the word. I'm just saying, you're the only one that has.
Sit down, Ronnie.
We're gonna sit down.
I ask that everybody stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Oceanoco Board of Commissioners for December 15th, 2022. And I ask that the clerk do a roll call, please.
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Christians?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Begg?
Here.
Ms. Myatt?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here. Thank you. I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the December 1st meeting, please.
I'll make that motion, Hardy.
I will support Christians.
We have a motion to support. Any questions or comments on the minutes as presented? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Conflict of interest or closure regarding agenda items. Are there any conflict of interest that board members have? Hearing none, are there any changes to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Chairperson. Question regarding page 2 on the item 2022-46. Will we be taking any action in regarding to the possible change?
No, I do not believe we'll be taking any action on that today.
Say no action.
No action.
For the record, then we will remove it, or at least put it down as a no action item?
No action.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Any others? Approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve?
Thank you, Mr. Beggs. Do we have a support? Ms. Mayette? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The first thing on the agenda was corrections officer requested.
Public comment?
Public comment, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Begg. Is there any public comment at this time? Well, there was another opportunity at the end, but you're welcome to make your public comments now.
Hello, everyone.
There's Matt.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Barnum Grover, and we are coming here from Oceana Medical Care Facility, and who we are currently in negotiations with, as many of you know. And we've kind of hit a crossroads in those negotiations, and I'd like to turn it over to the workers who make that, will help make that building run. And I'd like to turn it over to Lindita. And if you give us
Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Lindita Siegel, and I thank you to everyone for letting me speak today. I've been employed by the medical care facility for 10 years this upcoming April. As you may or may not know, we are in the middle of bargaining our contract, and I was elected to be part of the bargaining team. As you can imagine, the healthcare field has changed a lot since 2020. Our goal has been to address the issues that specifically pertain to retaining new and long-term employees, based on the concerns that the employees have brought to the union's attention. Among those issues the employees want us to address is competitive pay, retain their current health insurance, acknowledgement of seniority, and deceptive language in the current contract. Due to the increased wage competition, we have lost more employees than gained throughout the past 2 years. This has led to a staffing problem that costs far more than what we are bargaining for. They have temp agency employees that in some cases are being paid twice as much as their current employees, $35 to $45 an hour, with a $10 an hour travel rate. Our current contract has employees topped out at $17.44 after 5 years, with only a 5-cent increase every 5 years until 35 years. During the negotiation period, we have made some small headways, but we have hit a wall. We came to the table with what we believe to be a competitive package that would better retain employees and bring in new talent. We went into negotiation just to do that, to negotiate, to come together as representing what everyone we have talked to express, and to find the best happy medium for the company and the employee. The company has repeatedly come back offering far less pay, like for some employees as low as 32 cents than our current competition. The companies we keep losing long-term employees to, and they want to cut our current benefits. And what I mean by cut benefits, they want to take away our health insurance that 30% of the people use for a cheaper plan that nobody wants, that does not adequately compensate us and pay for its loss. This limits new and current aides from earning their potential in their chosen field. Why wouldn't people want to go somewhere else when they're getting better pay, better benefits, when the opportunity can come from their current employer and make this place profitable for Oceana County again? We are not here demanding $30 or $40 an hour, which they are already paying temp agency employees. We are proposing a happy medium that addresses the current market value for what we do for a living and the insane inflation we have experienced. If there's anything you can do to have them look at our proposals from a non-biased perspective and actually come to the table to negotiate, it would be appreciated. At the rates that they are offering, within 2 years, they will not be attracting anybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Good morning.
Hello, my name is Anisha Patterson. I work at Oceana Medical Facility. Everything she said, I was gonna pinpoint. She basically hit it on the nail. Me personally, I just feel like going into work every day and having to work for the facility, and also knowing that temp agencies are getting paid more than me, and I've been working there longer than they have. I don't feel like that's fair for us. I feel like they don't know our residents. We know our residents. We get to know our residents. We understand our residents. They're not even washing our residents up right. So for them to come there and get paid more than we do, knowing we've been there longer, we love the facility, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be there. I don't feel like that's right. And for them to even go to the table and say 32 cents an hour, and these people take time out of their day to learn these residents, not only, just to stay. Especially, I feel like that's mistreatment. You know what I'm saying? You mistreating these people when they willing to stay here when everybody else has left. That is very inappropriate. They should have never came to a negotiating table saying 32 cents an hour. That was a slap in the face to the workers, the people who love these residents, who've been going there every day, through a pandemic, mind you, to come back every day just to take care of our residents that we love and that we are there for every day. I feel like 32 cents was a smack in the face for us. They definitely could have came with a better offer, and they chose not to. So I'm up here for all these other employees, and I'm just asking that y'all, you know, bring that to the table. Like, look, we love this job. If we didn't, we wouldn't be doing the job. But for them to come to the table with 32 cents an hour, that was definitely inappropriate. And that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to speak my mind on that. We are worth more and better in wages. Period. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment?
Hello everyone, my name is Laura Elvis-Stuffer. They have pretty much hit on a lot of points that I want to hit on as well too, but I also want to bring a couple more things to light as well too. My family and I are very active members of the community. My daughter is an ambassador for the 4-H for Oceana County as well too. I also help my uncle Jim Carlson with the Toys for Tots. I take pride in this county. I take pride for what I do in this county. I take pride in what I do at the medical care in this county. I'm at a crossroads in my life right now where I have 2 current job offers on the table. One, start me out with my years of experience. I'm on year number 7 at the medical care facility. I love the facility. I love the location. It's close to my home. We are farmers. I can still participate with my family in the farming and our family farm as well too, which is something deep it's a trait that I am trying to instill into my children and how important that is, you know. But with the 2 current offers I have on the table, it's really making me want to leave where I'm currently working, and it's a hard decision for me because the offers that they're giving us, and especially taking away our insurance, is not a security blanket for us. I mean, as we all know, we hear on the news every day, medical workers are such in high demand, high demand, high demand. If they would come to some type of happy medium and pay us for what we do, you know, and what we put forth in our work to help, you know, for the residents in which we solely care about. And I can't help but think about the our evacuation policies and procedures. These temp agency people, they are temporary. We are not. And if there's an evacuation order, they're not going to know how to safely transfer our residents and loved ones of all the people here in the county that are going to be very upset because you have someone temporary who has no idea how to, you know, in an event of an emergency, how to get them to the location or what the policy is. Are they doing it safely and correctly? But we do. And I feel like that is going unnoticed. A lot of things are going unnoticed. They just see that we want more money. It's not about that. We too have to support our families. We have to be able to take care of ourselves medically as well too, so we can continue to take care of our loved ones as well at the facility and our elders. And they're not just residents, they are family to us. And I think a lot of people are missing that picture. They just, you know, and that makes me sad. It makes me sad that I'm at that crossing point, you know. The offer I was given right now is at $25.60 an hour. That's a big difference. We are not asking for, you know, outrageous amount. We're just asking for them to consider, and we're asking for your help to help us, you know, to initiate that consideration and take that in consideration, you know. I mean, medical care is something that Oceana, from my experience, that's something that people talk about. They pride themselves in that facility. What is there to be able to be priding ourselves in if we have people coming from all over the state that's not taking care of our loved ones anymore? Not the right way because they don't know them. You know, we're gonna have more falls. We're gonna have more harm done to these elders than not, because we are paying people out from outside, from all over the state, to come in at an amount that is a ridiculous amount. But yet we're being considered unfair to ask for something more reasonable as well. And one of the things that was offered to me in an interview recently was, on top of my insurance, wellness days. That's because of the heightened rate of suicide. Is not like vacation time and all that. It doesn't impact none of that. That's just for mental health wellness, you know. And we're not even asking for anything additional like that. We're just asking to be treated fairly. And I don't think that's unreasonable, especially if you look at what we do on a daily basis. You know, everybody has
like me, you have your families, you have your jobs, you have things you have to do, and you're trusting us to take care of your loved ones the way you'd want them taken care of. And I think that people lose sight of that. You know, I think they lose sight of that, and all they say is that is the almighty dollar. And really, if you really think about it, really, there's no dollar amount you can put on that. We're just asking for you guys to, you know, help us in making them understand that, you know, what they're coming to us with their proposal, it's not even close to being a fair amount to consider. Especially with our insurance, that is just something it blows my mind. Would consider taking that away from us. That's so important nowadays, especially with COVID out there. I mean, need I say more about that? I mean, I don't think so. You know? So that's really what I wanted to share, is that point, you know. It's those points right there, so.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Are there any more public comments?
My name is Andrea Sobers, and I too work at Oceana County Medical Care Facility. I am not a CNA, I am a housekeeper. And a good organization is not run from the top down, it's run from the bottom up. And these negotiations that have been going on, everything that Nanisha and Lindita and Laura have talked about, the first place it's going to affect is housekeeping. Housekeeping is at the very bottom of this organization. You take away our insurance, you don't pay us, and by you I mean the end of the contract negotiations. It's like they said, we're not asking for the world, we're not asking for you know, to bleed the entire bank account dry. That's not what we're asking. What we're asking for is fair wages that will be attractive to everyone else, because even as a housekeeper, I know more about our residents than those temp agencies workers will ever know. And as a housekeeper, if things continue to go the way they have in the last few years since COVID, economically, where there are hospitals and other facilities offering way more attractive insurance and wage rates and holiday pay and all of that other stuff, I see people with higher seniority in my department leaving. People who are vested, who have spent so much time at that facility. They are part of the woodwork. They know everything there is to know about how the facility looked before this particular renovation or that particular renovation. People who have taught me what I know about working there, how to do my job correctly. They're going to leave, and there's not going to be anyone coming in behind them. You lose your housekeeping, you lose everything else. You lose the facility, because if people aren't there to clean it, it's not going to be acceptable to the state. We will be shut down. Our residents will have nowhere to go. Again, we're not asking for the world, and I'm not a very good speaker, and I know you ladies and gentlemen are not there. You're not seeing what we see every day. That's why we have come here to tell you what is going on. We cannot continue to let things go the way they have been. All we're asking for is fair wages, decent insurance, decent raises, competitive wage. That's all we're asking for. Again, they bring in these temp agency workers, they pay them much more than people, dietary aides, CNAs, nurses that have been there for 10 plus years. They're paying these temp agency workers more than that, and wonder why their permanent workers are leaving and they can't keep new ones, and they can't attract new ones. Temp agency workers are only going to put a band-aid on the issue. They're not going to cure the infection and heal the wound. Maybe what I've just said doesn't make any sense to anyone, but I hope maybe it does. I'm just here because I care about the people I work for. I don't work for the administration. I work for the residents of Oceana County Medical Care Facility. That is their home. That is where they live. And they are depending on all of us to be there every day to make sure they're taken care of properly. And I have had relatives reside there at various times during my life. And I have seen the quality of care that they received. And comparing that to the quality of care that's being received by the residents currently there, it breaks my heart.
Thank you for your comments. We are way over our time limit here. Is there anybody that just has something very quick for closing?
They hit it all.
Okay, thank you.
They did.
Thank you. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do at the medical care facility. I'm sure everybody who sits at this table appreciates the work that you do and what you do over there. I am going to ask our county administrator to send an email to the administrator at the medical care facility briefly saying the concerns that were expressed, but as elected people, when there's a union negotiation and we're not part of the negotiations, we have to be very, very careful of how we get involved with that. Very careful. So I am just going to ask our administrator to take care of, letting the administrator over there know that you were here and the concerns. But again, and I'm probably erring on the side of caution if I'm erring at all here, but I don't want to cause any difficulties on either side for the negotiation. So I would rather that we not make any comments or get involved with that. We let the administrator take care of that for us. Do any of my fellow commissioners have a problem with that? No. So we will let that happen. Thank you for what you do, and good luck, and Merry Christmas to you and your families.
You too, thank you. Thank you guys so much.
We like to deliver these. This is just a petition.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Keep these?
Yep.
And then you guys can put this on the record.
Okay, thank you.
Corrections officer request, we will bring that back at future meeting. I think there was some very, very good information that came out, and some very good thoughts from the members, but it will not get forgotten in the track. Let's bring that back and let's look and see. In the meantime, I think that it would be worthwhile for the sheriff or his designee to sit down or bring some information to the administrator on the annual cost for a new corrections officer, so when it comes back to the board, we know how much money we need to look for if that's going to happen. So is that, Sheriff, will that work for you for today, that we bring it back and and we actually know the numbers, that we know where it's at?
Sure.
So, thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Hardy, Resolution 22-78, supplemental agreement.
Motion 2022-38 to adopt resolution number 22-78, allowing for the approval to enter into a settlement and a release agreement in connection with a civil action suit 1:14-CB-01274, subject to approval by the court.
Do we have a support for that?
Support.
Moved by Mr. Hardy, support by Mr. Erickson. Again, that is what came out of the closed session that we had. Nothing action can be taken at the closed session.
Did you want to share what Mary stated about where those funds are coming from?
Yes, please.
Mayor, I didn't catch all of what she said to you.
Between the two of us, the treasurer came back and talked to us a little bit about where the funds come from. We all heard that it's not going to be 100% of the people that are going to apply for that.
So they had funding. She had funding set aside from 2017 to 2020, correct? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And so anything between 2013 and 2017, they don't have a
set aside, but, that those funds would have to be made whole by the, general fund if it exceeded the amount that she currently has set aside.
And the lion's share of it is in that 2017 to 2020, I believe, you know. I believe that's what it is.
The attorney fee for that, does that come out of the general fund then? Or does that come out of?
That treasurer's office.
I thought that was going through MMRMA
And
for all of those,
I think so.
for our liability insurance, because.
And he mentioned something about the attorney fees that weren't attorney fees didn't come from the general fund in his presentation too.
Yeah, and I kind of missed it where they were actually coming from, but, so, okay.
But I'm glad that the treasurer brought up that, you know, where the funds are coming from. There may be I guess, from my understanding, Tracy, and correct me if I'm mistaken, there may be a liability that we have on funds, but it is going to be limited. It's going to be limited. But
Still
thank
the
you.
best way around it, though.
Thank you for doing that. We have a motion. Did we have a support for the motion?
I will support the motion. Christians?
Well, I think Mr. Erickson already did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't do the notes when I was talking to Tracy. Thank you.
Point of order.
Any other discussion on it? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Ms. Mayette?
Yes.
Mr. Christians?
Yes.
Mr. Morse?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Erickson, Crystal Valley Dam, 2022-25.
If you can read my writing.
I move to approve rehabilitation of the Crystal Valley Dam contingent upon funding from the Dam Risk Reduction Grant. If the grant is not funded or alternate funds are not obtained by June 30th, 2023, the county opts to begin the process for removal of the dam and to apply for grants to do so.
Do we have a support? Moved by Mr. Erickson, support by Ms. Mayette. Any discussion or comments?
Well, as I said, I mean, I'll support it if there's some sort of plan moving forward to fund it maintenance-wise. I don't know exactly how to word it, or I'm thinking I'll just say no for now, and then we can, you know, down the road, look at that if we get the funding. So one step at a time.
Right.
I understand where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you at all.
Mr. Chairperson, I
Yeah.
wonder if it wouldn't behoove us to write a letter to, this is through Senator Bumstead, to encourage our request. We
have been in contact, and
Good.
I have talked to the senator, and I've talked to his office, you know, and I've asked a question at the beginning. We thought there were funds to this, and the senator has said no, but we could still reach out. We could still reach out to, you know, with sending that motion, ask if there's anything he can help us with. Yes, Mr.
And I also called John Bumstead. We spoke for a while about this. In the wording of that 565, restoration, rehabilitation was part of that. We had skipped over that in the beginning. But the senator told me nothing was going to happen this year because they're all out of session. So I say in January we start to work on the people that are working for us, so part-timers.
Good way to put it.
And I'd like to reiterate that, and Gary brought this up, that the issue that we're gonna have with getting that grant funding is that Eagle's the one who suggested that we remove the dam. They're also the ones that we applied to the grant for, so it's kind of a double-edged sword, so I just wanted to point that out.
With all of this being said, it was an interesting discussion, and I think we have a very, very good motion on the table with this, because we are doing our due diligence on as much as we can do to save that dam And if it gets to the point that we just can't do it anymore, I believe we've done everything as a board we could to try to save it, if we can't find the funding.
And also that contact that I'll be receiving, you know, has worked with Eagle extensively and knows fisheries and Eagle, and so, you know, I do feel that we will be able to make some inroads into this process after the first of the year.
Can I, so I just, as I'm thinking, I will vote yes for this, but with the understanding that we are going to, if it happens, where we get the funds to be able to replace it or to repair it, that there needs to be a plan for funding going forward.
Yep. I would like to see that in discussion, a 10-year plan. Because if we do it for 10 years, you know, that would help. A 10-year plan on how it's going to be maintained. I think that's a good thought.
And if I could add one more thing, I know, you know, the east versus west of the county thing that was brought up, and I don't think this is the same thing as the Marshfield Dam, and the reason is the Crystal Valley and the Marshfield Dam being removed. If this was on the table to repair the Marshfield Dam, I fully believe, of course this is hypothetical, I think I would be in the same boat I am right now as I am with Crystal Valley.
It's also not changing the body of water.
Right.
From a pond to a stream.
Right. So I want to point that out, because I do agree that east side doesn't get its due all the time around this county, but in this case I don't think it's an east side versus west side thing. I think it's just a dollars and cents thing.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Thank you for your comment on it. Roll call vote.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Ms. Mayette?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Christians?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Christians, Parks and Recreation appointment.
Mr. Walker, I would like to make the following motion number 2022-39, that will make the appointment for Mr. Adam Chandler to our Parks and Recreation Commission for a 3-year term, of which that term will expire on December 31 of 2025.
Do we have a support?
I'll support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
Great choice. Really good choice. He works under Conservation District. He's really good at it.
I'm glad you know him, Paul.
Yeah.
So, I do not believe we have to do a roll call vote for that. I think we can just do all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Morris, I have one thing on the Conservation Resource Alliance grant for Stony Creek. The chairman of Parks Committee will sign that, or has signed that grant. So we're approving that the chairman of the Parks Committee did that instead of the, it's not the chair of the board, it's the chair of the Parks Committee.
Okay. But it says Miss Morse, that I don't, there's no.
You
didn't bring your wife with you today?
I did
that on purpose. I thought
Yeah, but you
catch
did.
it. and I intentionally said Mr. Morris.
Yes, you did. All right. Chairman Walker, I make a motion 2022-40 to approve the Conservation Resources Alliance grant for the Stony Creek project in the amount of $625,000, allowing the chair of the Parks and Rec Committee to sign.
Thank you. Do we have a support?
I'll support Hardy.
Support. Moved and supported. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Ms. Mayette?
Yes.
Mr. Christians?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, thank you. Great Lakes Fishery Grant for Stony Creek. Mr. Erickson.
I move to approve the Great Lakes Fishery Trust grant in the amount of $115,000 for the Stony Creek project and allow the chair to sign.
Thank you. Do we have a support?
I will support Christians.
Thank you, Mr. Christian. Any comments or questions? I'm just going to say this is probably one of the frosting on the cake for a nice project.
Yeah.
Because it is gonna open that up for handicap accessible right down to the stream. And that's nothing but a good thing. So, roll call vote.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Ms. Myatt?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Ms. Mayette, Board of Commissioners January meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move we set the January Board of Commissioners meeting for Thursday, January 12th, 2023, to begin at 10 a.m.
Do we have a support?
Support.
Point of discussion, is it wise to state the date or the time, only because who knows what the agenda?
Just in case we get more stuff.
Right. I would recommend amending that to just remove the time.
At the time designated by the administrator.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah. Just in case.
Thank you.
We're gonna meet
That's a
them.
lot of responsibility to put on the administrator.
Yeah.
I'm sure she can handle it.
I don't know, this last time we were trying to decide.
Well,
Should we start at
you don't
9?
even-
Yeah, we better.
Nobody else even wants to know about that one. We have the movement and the support. Mr. Beggs, you supported it?
No.
No, Mr. Christian.
Christian?
No.
No.
Erickson?
Mr. Erickson.
I was supporting.
If I go all the way around the table,
Yeah.
I'll hit the right
I won't be there.
And,
Well,
we can just do that, we're not spending money, we can do that on, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I do think it's rich that Ms. Mayette got to make that motion and she doesn't have to attend.
Me, it was Mr. Mayette.
Mr. Beggs.
Yeah, it was Mr.
Oh, it
Beggs.
was.
Oh, my. Was it?
Mr.
Oh,
Beggs.
boy.
Hey, Mr. Beggs.
Veterans Affairs reappointment, please.
I make a motion 2022-42 to reappoint Gina Mead and Tracy Blamer to the Veterans Affairs Committee for a 4-year term to expire on December 31, 2026.
I'll support that, Hardy.
Moved and supported, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. Hardy, budget amendment.
Make motion,
Amendment.
2022-43 to approve budget amendment, number 22-02 to amend the fiscal year 2022 budget for several funds in the amount of $145,874 to prepare for the year end.
Do we have a support?
I'll support.
Are there any questions or comments? Housekeeping. Roll
Lot of
call.
work.
Yeah, it
A
is.
lot of work.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Ms. Myatt?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Ms. Mayette, the seepage repair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to present motion 2022-44 to approve the quote from Great Lakes Waterproofing in the amount of $22,998 to repair areas within the courtyard causing seepage going into the basement of the courthouse, with funds to come from the ARPA funds.
Do we have a support?
I will support Christians.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments?
I like that it's gonna be less than what we budgeted.
Yeah.
A winner.
Yeah?
Fine.
I'm gonna comment on this and on the next one also, that it was not easy for Brian to get these quotes. Sometimes he had to call back several times to get them because the companies are busy, and he was very diligent on getting these quotes. And again, I'm very, very happy that we found a warranted solution like this compared to what it would have cost us if we would have, because not only would we have paid an architect or an engineer to do it, they would have also charged us a percentage of the profit,
And
on the
how
product.
long's that issue been going on?
Quite a while.
Well, I remember twice that all of the carpeting has been taken up, the insurance company has paid it, since I've been on the board. So,
Our insurance bill will go down too, right?
So,
I'm kidding.
It won't go up.
Guaranteed?
Roll
No.
call vote, please.
Ms. Mayette?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Morse?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Mr. Erickson, the amount on the health department rooftop unit is gonna change to the price from Adams Heating, and I believe it's $9,008, is that correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
And we should probably add Adams Heating in that motion.
I move to approve the replacement of a rooftop unit at the District Health Department 10 in the amount of $9,008 awarded to Adams Heating and Cooling, with the funds to come from the ARPA fund.
Do we have a support?
Morse.
Morse.
Mr. Morris?
Yeah.
Mr. Erickson moves, support by Mr. Morris. Any comment?
I just wanted to point out that these funds are not set aside in the ARPA funds. Although you just saved, over $10,000 with your, the secret, waterproofing. So the total between those two is $32,006, so you're saving.
Perfect.
Mr. Hardy, do you have a problem as
3,000.
chair of that committee with us just doing that?
No, I don't have a problem with that. We've kind of disbanded the committee itself, but that fund was basically set up to help with the repairs, and that's part of the repair, so I agree with it, yeah. Glad that we have the extra to use.
It's $5.2 million.
So, any other comment? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Mr. Morse?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Ms. Mayette?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. The next item we're gonna take no action on. Mr. Morris and Mr. Beggs are gonna get some more information from us for us on those. Mr. Hardy, payment of claims?
Yeah, move for board approval of accounts payable and release of funds. Ambulance fund total, $1,591.37. FOC fund total, $4,646.81. Indigent defense fund total, $9,241.69. APRA fund total, $21,816.44. Department of Veterans Affairs fund, $3,405.58. Technology and Innovation fund, $13,228.24. Foreclosure fund, $10,726.97. Building Department fund, $7,638.14. for a general fund total of $336,282.96 for a grand total of $414,313.83.
Do we have a support?
Support Christians.
You got the last one before you leave. Thank you, Mr. Christian. Any comment or question? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Mr. Beggs?
Yes.
Ms. Mayette?
Yes.
Mr. Erickson?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes. Thank you. Reports from the department heads and commissioners. Mr. Beggs?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Hardy?
Nothing to report.
Ms. Mayette?
I just want to say that this has been a delight to work with all of you and the previous 5 other commissioners. It's amazing the talent that is in this county, and the expertise you bring, each of you in different areas, is a real asset, and I am pleased as punch to have been able to serve with you all, and I'll miss you all.
Merry Christmas.
We're gonna miss you too, and you're gonna have to come back and sit in the audience and heckle us or something.
Come public comment, come
Yeah,
and,
there
you
you
know,
go.
say all the things you've always wanted to say.
I I will tell my fellow commissioners that Ms. Mayette has said that on one particular of the committees, that if we cannot find anybody and we have a difficult time looking for somebody, if we get it on our website and nobody responds, that she would be interested in helping us out with one of the committees. How can a person go away on a better note than that?
Right.
To say that she'll still, when she knows how difficult it's gonna be. So, Mr. Morse.
Yeah, well, first I'm going to say appreciate you, Martha. I appreciate you, Ron, too. You guys, we'll miss you. You guys have been a great asset. Couple things. We have hired, OCEA has hired a new director, or executive director. His name is Curtis Burdett. Not Burnett, Burdett. And he's coming from Wyoming. What's it called? Anyway, it's a city in Wyoming. He was the economic development director there for like 3 years. And he's actually from Montague. He grew up, he lived in Montague for, I think, his teenage years. So he knows the area. I could not give a higher recommendation. I was in the interview process with him. I could not give a higher recommendation for somebody. You can tell he's a go-getter. He's a little charismatic as far as, he wears a bow tie. That's his identity, type thing. But he's sharp. He's a sharp guy. And I think he's going to really help. You'll be very impressed, I believe. We've been working on the board rules, and so we've been even emailing back and forth this week. I presume Chase, you will send those out pretty soon to the group as a whole for everybody to look over, if you haven't already.
I have not, because
Okay.
there was that one thing I still have to make that change to.
Yep. So then, when, then you can take a look at it, and then we can, talk about it in January. This example, did you get this? Does everybody have this copy? So this is what I had in mind. Probably a little smaller than this, but instead of a business card, at least for me, this is what I'd like. Instead of a business card, something like this. One of them gets mailed out, and then I can have a stash of 100 or whatever that I hand out to people that are in my area. And it has a little message there, has my cell phone. And then has a scanner, something they can scan that goes directly to the website that would have, these options of what you can subscribe to. So that's what I had in mind. I thought it'd be better to put, write it out. And then I have some other things, but I'm going to just put it all in one report and come with it next meeting because it's getting late. Related to communicating with the public. So. Make sure I got broadband. This is really important. So we have to challenge the FCC maps. So you'll be getting an email probably from Tracy if you haven't already. And we have to challenge the FCC maps by January 13th of their accuracy. And you're going to be getting something with instructions, but not just you. I'm hoping that you will share the word with everybody you know, especially if they don't have internet. I mean, if they got Great Lakes Energy and TrueStream, there's nothing for them to know other than telling other people who don't have the service that they need to have, or that their FCC is testing. Because the FCC map will say, well, there's 100 up and 220 down or whatever in this area, but you do a speed test and you're like, no, it's not. That's not accurate. So then you have to challenge it. You have to go into the website, the FCC website, and you have to actually challenge it. Now, WIBZRDIC is a big key piece of this for the 5 counties that we represent, and so we have a committee, Tracy, myself, and a couple others from here. I have been working through this about how to advertise. I'm hoping to have a press release sent to John and those guys coming up here. We have it one written, we just got to tweak it. And then that'll go in the paper, but we need your help in advertising for this. So please consider that. My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Christian.
Yes, I just want to say also thank you all. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and it's been nice to see everybody in one kind of a congruous work pattern of, I don't see a lot of the political end of it at all, and I'm very glad that we could see that. We did see some of that at the public speaking forum, but we held our goods, and that was good. Lee Hyslop from Crystal Township as supervisor was saying out in the hallway, I think they're very pleased with what occurred today regarding Crystal Dam. I plan to attend their township meeting next Monday, and it'll be nice to say we're trying to move forward and do our due diligence. I think that was well put. Thank you, Bob. Thank you all, and I look forward to maybe stopping once in a while and saying hi and bye. And
the only thing that I ask, that when you stop, please do not stop by my house when you're working.
Don't drop me.
Don't drop me. I will handle you gentle, Bob. If you're still going in the back, you're not sitting in the front.
You can stop over any time, but when you're in that Beacon funeral home vehicle, you don't need to stop over.
For you, I'll bring the hearse.
High class.
Mr. Erickson.
Boy, this has been amazing, and there's nobody here, and there's only one other person that's tuned in right now. For all of the effort with the Zoom and everything else, there's one other person, and there's no one here.
Welcome to that other person.
But Robert, I don't know if we should expound that. Robert and I did meet with the medical care, and we've had this discussion. So that was brought to them. We voiced these concerns to the administration and the chair at the medical care. So we've done our part in having a conversation.
I'm gonna, if you don't mind me interrupting, it was a very, very good meeting. I think we said that at the last, but I hope I am correct that when there's a union contract negotiation going on, we really need to stay out of that.
Yeah, we're no part of it.
Yeah,
we are no part of this this issue. It's a 3-member board, 1 appointed by the governor and 2 appointed by us, that runs that facility. And yes.
Phil had a question.
Well, does this group know, does Matt know how the structure?
We've explained this, and these things began at the beginning of the pandemic, and it all circled around vaccinations and masking. We started to see attendance and concerns, but the bed census dropped, things in the negative. We're losing $150,000 a month. She's right, housekeeping. A facility starts at housekeeping. You can't open beds unless there's clean beds to rent. So we understand all this, but it has been a healthcare industry problem hiring people across the board, and the private entities have been stealing our help with higher benefit and wage packages. So there is a lot of competition to go to Ludington or to Whitehall, so we've got that divide.
And Paul, that would be a great lead into the wonderful meeting we had
with Life. And Robert and I met with Life. We were asked to meet with Life by Dr. Lauren Reed and John Foss. And John Foss runs Lakeshore Trinity. And our meeting was over the transfers, interhospital transfers of patients, and the shortage that we have of buses on the road. We still only have 2. Hesperia is not well represented. The northeast corner is awful slim when it comes to ambulance service. We've lost a dozen firefighter MFRs out of the Walkerville area fire, which spreads us even thinner out in that neck of the woods.
Are they not doing MFR anymore?
We've got MFR, but we lost a dozen.
They're just not
a dozen
interested
members.
anymore.
It was one of the best staffed in the county.
Right.
And that was up until Colfax started this whole fire problem. That's when I hired Gayton Gervil-Reich back then, when Jerry Frick and Burla Frick and everybody out there was under the gun by Colfax. Now, I don't know if you'd been there, but Colfax Town Hall, I was at the meeting last week. It's a great group. They've got a new supervisor, David Leonard. He's doing a great job. He represents the Pere Marquette people very well, the school section Lake people very well. David has been very proactive in re-engaging their community that was torn apart over the fire barn and secession from the Walkerville area fire. There's now our conversations being held to re-enter, for Colfax to re-enter the fire authority there, but you know, based on all the problems that we're having within our fire agencies, you know, the administration and all the other things that are going on in the fire world, they're going through this step by step, and right now they're paying $72,000 a year for their annual fire protection out there, and that will continue for another year, so that base has been covered. Last town board meeting out in Colfax, they had a special assessment up on Ruth Drive in Wonderland, and if any of you are wondering where that is, if you head east of the Crystal or the Ruby Creek Tavern and go down, and you can take a right, and there's a very nice subdivision in on the Pere Marquette River, of which they did a special assessment for all new asphalt. So it's a pretty good drive to go out there and look. But Colfax held the Michigan Township Association meeting out there last month, and all of the supervisors from the townships and other officials met in Colfax and discussed our roads. And they had the road commission come out and give a presentation on roads, and I think there was some good progress made. You know, the roads out that way are pretty doggone rough and nasty, but I think you found, maybe if you came on Fillmore today, it's much better. You know, we're seeing some real improvements out that way as far as roads go, but you know, there is that, we call it the corridor. It's been here forever, and it started with the railroad, and there is a corridor, and there's west of the railroad and there's east of the railroad, and Hesperia all the way to Colfax feels underrepresented.
The meeting with Lake, we actually held it at the county service building because we wanted to be on neutral ground, and Dr. Reed and Mr. Foss were there, and Mark Myers was there, and Jim Dodge?
Jim was, and also Stockwell. Jeff was there.
Jeff Stockwell were there, and Paul and I, we pretty much took the position that we were mediators with what was going on at the time. But the bottom line is, when it came out of that meeting, we came out, Jeff Stockhill and Dr. Foss,
John Foss.
John Foss.
The administrator.
I'm sorry, John Foss. They're going to meet monthly, and they're going to look at what they can do. And I asked Jeff Stockhill, when he does our quarterly report, hint Jeff, to put on there how many transfers they do out of the hospital, and how many that they refuse to, or that they have to turn down to do out of the hospital, and we're
the reason why.
And what's that all about? Mark Myers was talked about staffing, and he said the only real way to deal with it is to have 12-hour shifts, one bus on 12-hour shifts instead of 24s, because they don't need the downtime. You know, because that when they're transferring during that 10 at night to 6 in the morning, and there was a misnomer of information out there. Paul, you don't mind if I jump in?
It was contentious, though. I got to tell you, there was heat in the table, and I think we got over it.
But there was misinformation out there that these are only for the non-priority transports. If there's an emergency transport, they're going to do them. These are for the non-priority.
Even between 10 and 6.
Pardon me?
So
between 10 and 6 in the morning.
They'll still do it if it's an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. They will do it if it's an emergency.
Who deems it it's emergency, though?
That protocol has been adopted by the Michigan Department of Public Health.
But there's still some evaluation of the patient. So I would think that's the doctor's job that is in front of the patient,
the-
not.
The biggest part, of course, everything the doctors do is, there's a protocol.
Well, yeah,
You know,
sure.
but one of the things that was brought up at the meeting that I think was as key as everything else was the discussion that there were really two things that we needed to look at the meeting. The first thing we needed to look at that meeting was the transfer of patients. The second thing that we need to look at that meeting was the public image that we have between Life EMS and the hospital. Because a negative public image is not gonna do anybody good for anything. And whether it was the group of us who are sitting around the table, the comment that we made when we walked out of that room, or whether it's employees that worked on either side of the grid for this, it doesn't do any good for one group to bash the other side because they don't like this or that needs to come back to the administrators or back to the owners and deal with that instead of dealing with that in the public. And I didn't see any real dissension when that was said. And the other thing that came out there was the comment that county units of government do not have to be any ambulance service. And if we were running it strictly on the millage that we generate now, we'd have 1.5 ambulances out at best. And respectfully, and I'm not throwing them underneath the bus, but respectfully, Dr. Reed said, I believe that's not true. And Mark Myers said, Dr. Reeds, respectfully, that absolutely is true. The county doesn't have to provide ambulance service. And Paul brought up Tracy and coming from Clare County, how it's market run over there. It's not, but it was about an 1.5 to 2 hour meeting. It started off a little bit
contentious,
you know, but it ended up very, very good. And I'm glad that Paul was there, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to at least start a dialogue and have a direction to go with it.
And the other thing that all of us should remember, and this is extremely serious. This is probably perhaps the most serious thing on our table. We did pass a millage to have our own ambulance service, and when our ambulance service was disbanded, we hired Life with those millage dollars. We have 2 different healthcare systems in our geographical area, Spectrum from Ludington and Mercy to the south. They're both competitors for our market, and it's pretty much divided on baseline like most everything else we have. But these transfers, after you've once been admitted or you walked in, been admitted, those transfers are then separate billed to an insurance company. So we're already paying these buses to be on the road, and then they are, and I won't use that term, double dipping, but they're also receiving compensation for inter-hospital transfers, and that is not truly the obligation of the taxpayers of Oceana County to supplement the transfer of patients for a private industry. So we've kind of got a gray area right here where I would like to see if in the future the healthcare industry transports their own people. And it was suggested.
We had a discussion.
It was suggested, I suggested, Robert suggested it, that, and he brought up the UP scenario, that these hospitals provide their own, they call them cars. It's not a truck until then they use the car. But to have that ambulance sitting in Shelby, where perhaps during daylight hours when these inter-hospital transfers could happen, you could have a driver that could be called in on call to come in like our old EMS did, and to put an RN on that bus just to get it down there to have the scans or the blood work done in Muskegon or whatever this transfer is about. But that, I don't feel we should be supplementing with tax dollars once they've already entered the healthcare system.
Well, and the other thing that everybody around the table didn't realize is Oceana County pays reimbursements for all the medical responders out of that village too. Everybody who was around that table didn't realize that we're covering that. And I think this year it's going to gonna be $175,000 to $200,000 with the amount of people out there. So that's almost 20% of the millage that we bring in, that we're supplementing that.
And Dr. Reed did say that if this perception by the public doesn't improve, or if it receives negative attention, the chances of passing another ambulance millage in this county is going to be awfully tough, like the jail. So potentially we could end up in a situation where a ambulance millage wouldn't pass. We wouldn't have additional funding to attract life into our territory, and then we are at the mercy of the private industry that comes in and takes over. Now, ProMed's not running like they had been. We've talked to White Lake Ambulance to see how that would go that way. Ludington has got a car downtown for these sorts of things, and the Life only runs 2 buses east of Ludington, but we were to have 3, and that was the agreement we entered into. And if we were to take our contract and read it line by line, you will see that that contract has been violated. But as I told Robert in the beginning, this is kind of like a dog chasing a car. We can chase that car all we want, but once we catch it, what in the world would we ever do with it? We have the same set of problems Mark Meyer has right now, hiring and attracting good help to ride buses.
And we'd be directly responsible for
We'd
it.
be right on the top of the food chain there, yeah.
And we would have, I told Paul, and then I guess we can wrap up this, but I told Paul that Bob Sobey and Denny Powers and I sat right in this room, and Bob Sobey told us that he was spending 6 to 10 hours a week on the ambulance service when things were, when they had issues with, when they had perceived issues with the director. You know, for Pete's sake, they came in, some people came into his office to complain one time because somebody got a winter coat that was more expensive than the one they had. Bob Sobey threw him out. If you ever, the first time and the only time I ever heard of Bob Sobey doing that, he said, I'm not even going to discuss this. But it was, and that was extreme. But we don't have the personnel to deal with it right now. But it was a good meeting.
But the bottom line is, here we are. Life is offering classes. Those classes are graduating 22 or 23 now down at the Grand Rapids store, so there are more bodies coming in.
One of those is from Mason County.
Yep, and then we will be offering more classes, paramedic classes through West Shore, through Daniels, to grow our own. And these are good careers, but you know, unless we grow our own, we won't be enjoying the fruits of that labor. That's not going to happen, and we won't fill those positions on those buses. It's boiling right down to that.
Paul, I just got a couple things, real quick. Committee assignments. Those of you who have not forwarded these to Tracy, please get into the office, and she's just going to tabulate them, and then we'll sit down and we'll go through them. We'll probably, you know, a couple of us will just do an overview like we did last year, and then we can adjust it at the meeting. We'll have most of it done.
How soon do you want? I just got mine today, but how soon do you want those back? 3 o'clock.
We're not going to do it till after.
I can do it by 3.
I think you can do it before you get up.
Got a plane waiting?
Any of you who have not seen on YouTube the dialogue between our magistrate and somebody that she was arraigning down there, need to look it up. And I can give you the information on where it's at. Need to look it up. And after I saw it, it was sent to me. After I saw it, I stopped down, and the magistrate wasn't in, but she called me, and I congratulated her on the way that she handled it. It was done very, very well. And I also apologized to her for having to put up with that during an arraignment. It was pretty sad.
While we're talking about that, if I can, just real quickly, you know, at the last meeting I zoomed in, or YouTubed in. It took me a little while to find the link. I'm wondering, and I know if you guys, you know, pull up your
I'm
your
looking.
meeting notes, and you can click on it, and it will take you to the agendas and the meeting dates. And then you have to go to the agendas and meeting minutes, and then you have to read the text that says, Board and Commission available on YouTube, watch live, or on demand. 3 nice little steps. What I'm wondering, in the notice that goes out, could we put that link in there? There's an email link in there that says, hey, if you want to ask a question, and there's a link that tells you when the meetings are held. But this is on the notice that goes out for that specific meeting. If we could put that YouTube link right there. Because I know when I logged on, it hadn't started yet, so it was just blank. But it's that same YouTube link. And if that could be added to that sheet, it would make it a lot easier.
Where do you want to add it to?
On the
Notice, page 1?
The notice itself, committee and board meeting packet, says
Okay.
notice to the public.
Okay.
Detailed meeting agendas are available online. You can click that link and it just takes you to the meetings.
Oh, okay.
But if you click on that, it takes you to the meetings, and then you have to go over to the side and click on it again, and then go back to the middle and read that.
Right.
But if it was there, and if there's other places that IT could pop that on there, that would be, you know, it just so.
The easier the better, I think. The easier we can make it, the better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
This is a different subject, so.
Oh, but anyway, just thought, because I'm a commissioner and I'm going,
Yep.
heck. And then I finally found it.
I'm finally finding it easier, but I always have to ask the clerk. She's good at
Well,
this.
don't ask the chair this year, because he is the
What did Adriana do?
She was arraigning a person who has been a problem child, and the person came unglued when she set bond because it's an assaultive type issue,
Yeah.
and he didn't like the bond, and his reference to her and everything else was not very kind, and she absolutely totally held her composure and everything, and just the way it was. Finally the court officer had to remove him. It was done telephonically, videoly, but they had to remove him from the room.
Can you email that to us?
How long ago was that?
Last week, Monday, or
Last
Tuesday.
week, Monday?
I've got it here. When we get done on my phone, I can give you the link for it.
Thanks.
Is that the incident?
Martha.
Go ahead,
I just wanted to say, we were talking about the ambulance and the report at the Greenwood Township meeting on Monday night from the fire board member was that they had 29 runs and only 2 of them were fires. So they had 27 emergency medical runs in the month. And what?
And we are going to have to watch that during the year in case we've got to do budget amendments for that. Because we pay for those.
And
Yeah, and I think
when we went through and switched our web hosting or whatever company or whatever we did, I mean, he was supposed to build a new website.
They're working on it still.
Still working on it.
Yep, it's in the final stages, and there was some things they were trying to wrap up, but yes. And Phil had asked me about that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I talked to Stacy, and that's what she told me. I
Thank
just
you.
have one little thing.
Yes.
We are having our Christmas treats tomorrow from 11 to 2. There'll be Christmas treats set up on a table outside our office, and the gifts for the employees. So, and our ugly sweater. So if you want to stop by and say hi, just letting you know that you're welcome to come and have some treats with us.
Thank you.
And I want to wish all of the clerk and the administrator and all my fellow commissioners a very Merry Christmas. And I'm hard-headed and I don't say Happy Holidays or anything else because it's Christmas for me, and it's always going to be Christmas for me. And Phil, I don't know if you've driven past my house yet, but have you seen the banner up in front of my house?
No.
my banner is a Christmas banner.
Good. I agree
Not
with you.
anything but a Christmas banner. And I thank you for the honor of being the chair for the last year and stuff, and sometimes things get very difficult, but some information needs to be brought out so everybody knows what's going on. But on a happy note, and I hope all of you and your family have Merry Christmas.
You too.
That incident that happened last Monday here in this building, down the hall in the courtroom, I happened to be in the building as well. I heard the alarm system go off saying they needed help in the courtroom. It was a juvenile. It took something like 5 or 6 officers to tackle.
That was a different one.
Is that a different one? All right, well, this is a true story. And I'm
Exciting day, huh?
So he was a juvenile, and yeah, so the sheriff and the sheriff's department, they do a lot of running up and down that hallway, I think. They had to find a place for the juvenile to be under a correctional facility, if you will. He wound up, they thought Ottawa County was booked solid, St. Ignace, Michigan, that transported him to 2 of our deputies in
Sault Ste. Marie.
What?
Sault Ste. Marie.
Sault Ste. Marie?
That's where he went.
Okay.
He'll get the culture shock and behave after he sees the snow or she over.
Maybe we could put him on one of those boats coming through the lines or something.
You're funny.
But he is, yeah.
Do we have anything else to come before the board?
Lunch.
Lunch, yeah.
Lunch.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Tracy, if you would help me, I'll
You didn't get in there and
sign that.
tackle the juvenile yourself?
I know, I hung on to my death certificates and said, Amy said, don't go in there.
Not my problem.
Not my problem.
Are we offline now?
I'll give them after the fact.
I helped take 3 to Jackson last week. That was interesting.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You're still online.
Oh.